Chapter 87. Garamandes rejoiced in his misfortune. It's too late to realize your mistake. Didn't you see Theosis laughing? You even said such a long sentence. You're in trouble, but you should have been punished like this long ago. Diamante snorted coldly. Garamandes, don't be so happy. According to the information I received, you should have lost the bottle in your hand. Also, how did the three of you complete the mission of the Dragon God? Tell me about your situation. Garamandes said somewhat awkwardly. Well, it's not that I wasn't careful, but the enemy was too cunning. They actually prepared a spatial scroll above the 10th step and took advantage of the moment when I was distracted to snatch the bottle and run. I couldn't catch it in time. A few days ago, I suddenly felt the aura of the bottle, but when I chased after it, the aura disappeared. I received your message and hurried over. Dark Dragon King Theosis laughed again. Good. You're really getting more and more capable. In your opinion, losing one bottle shouldn't be a problem, right? You should also come over to our place as a guest. This time, it was Cow Dilla's turn to rejoice in his misfortune. Garrett, this time Theosis' words seemed to be even longer. You're in trouble. Hee. If we brothers work together, we won't necessarily suffer any losses. Garamandes said proudly. Who's your brother? I'll be your guest, but let me say this first. Theosis, I definitely won't work together with that filthy bastard Cow Dillas. If you're itching to fight, let's fight one-on-one. Dark Dragon King Theosis nodded coldly. You're ambitious. You're stronger than him. Demanteti's gaze turned to Wine Dragon King Caradiris and asked, Caro, where's your bottle? Caradiris said, I'm not as careless as they are. I use my dragon power to seal the bottle in a secret place in the White Village. With the protection of 4 powerful Caucasian summoners, with the strength of their spirit magic, it is impossible for the enemy to steal it. If we were to fight head-on, the summoning magic of those 4 Caucasian summoners isn't something that anyone can resist. Furthermore, the Caucasian friend that I have a contract with recently subdued a golden-back Earth Dragon King that has already evolved into a straight dragon. There won't be any problems. D-Mantegni nodded and said, You have always been cautious. We can trust you on this point. However, after we go back, we'll have to deal with you. It's better that you don't guard it personally. Judging from the current situation, the enemy's acquisition of 3 sealing bottles of Moodos was clearly organized and premeditated. The remaining 4 bottles in our possession must be their target. Not only do we have to protect these 4 bottles, but we also have to try our best to find the other 3 bottles. Otherwise, the Dragon God will blame us, and none of us will be able to bear the consequences. Wind Dragon King Caradiris said, Diamond, the enemy is hiding in the dark. Since they dare to steal the bottle, they naturally have the ability to cover up the scent of the bottle. Do they really want to open the space door and let those abandoned races come back? Demanteti nodded and said, Apart from this purpose, I really can't think of any other reason. Now most of the gods are sleeping. Once those abandoned races return to the Yangon continent, there will be a bloody storm. Even if the gods can wake up in time, they may not be able to avoid the catastrophe. After so many years, who knows how powerful those abandoned races are? After all, during the War of the Gods, they were only defeated and seriously injured the gods. If the gods had the power to destroy them, they would have done it long ago. Space Dragon King Caradiris said in annoyance, What gods? Abandoned races? Isn't that just a farce of humans? I really don't understand. Since these bottles are so important, why don't the gods guard them themselves? But let us guard them. Demanteti snorted and said, There are many things you don't understand. If the gods could guard the 7 bottles themselves, they would have done so long ago. These 7 bottles also have a great impact on us dragons. You should understand this. Caradiris said, It's not the magician Sith, those people. At this point, he suddenly felt Sith's sharp gaze, and he couldn't continue his sentence. Demanteti's eyes flashed with cold light. I hope you understand that Sith is one of us. Although he was once the prince of the Dark Dragons, he has nothing to do with the Dark Dragons anymore. If anyone brings up his sad past again, don't blame me for being hostile. Caradiris said embarrassedly, I'm the fastest. Sorry, But Diamond, when will you change your temper? You're going to be a mother soon. If you pass this temper on to your child, it won't be a good thing. Demand Teddy said in annoyance. None of your business. My child will definitely be the best. Garamandes looked deeply at Demand Teddy and said, I also want to see what attributes the child of the Dark Dragon King and Light Dragon King will have. Since the enemy has been confirmed, we should start moving. We still have 4 bottles in our hands. The first thing to do is for the magicians to protect these 4 bottles. Diamond, you're about to give birth, and when that time comes, your strength will be greatly weakened. In order to take care of you, I'm afraid that Caesar won't be able to take care of too many things. Your child will also need some time to hatch, so I want to find Fatty Caesar. That guy is too lazy, so I'll let him go find the stolen bottle. After I find him, I'll immediately look for you and protect you while you give birth. A trace of gentleness flashed in the eyes of the Dark Dragon King. Thank you, Garamandes coldly said. There's no need to thank me. You should know that I'm not doing this for you, but for Diamond. I don't want anything to happen to her. After all, I've only loved her in my life. Although she chose you, she will always be important to my heart. Do you know Kagiosis? I've hoped more than once that you don't treat her well. That way, I'll have a reason to snatch her back. Kagiosis calmly looked at Garamandes and said in an exceptionally firm tone, Unless I die, no one can harm or snatch away my beloved. Although you're my rival in love, I've never seen you as an enemy. Do you know why? Garamandes coldly looked at him. You seem to be very talkative today. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I'm going to look for a bumpkin. Before I come back, protect Diamond well. And you, Cow, remember to set up some barriers around Diamond's place of birth. After saying that, his human figure suddenly expanded and turned back into the Fire Dragon King. The huge dragon wings made the surrounding white clouds drift away. He disappeared in the blink of an eye, like an arrow leaving the bow. Caudillus looked at Garamandes' huge back gradually disappearing and asked curiously, Boss Sith, why don't you see him as an enemy? I'm not a troublemaker. However, when he chased after Diamond, he was like a fly that saw shit. Kagiosis disdainfully snorted, but didn't say anything. Instead, Demand Teddy seemed to recall something and said indifferently, That's because, in Kagiosis' eyes, Garamandes is a real man. At least, he knows what true love is. In order to make me happy, he finally gave up his pursuit of me. At that time, if not for his help, the dragon gods wouldn't have allowed me to marry Kagiosis. The rest of you don't know about that matter, but Garamandes is really a good person. If there's an afterlife, maybe I'll marry him. No, even if he's a good person, even if there's an afterlife, you can only be mine. Kagiosis' voice was deep and powerful. It was filled with an insufferably domineering aura. He hugged Demand Teddy's waist and looked deeply into her golden eyes. All right, you're just like a vinegar jar. I'm just saying that it's possible. All right, Caro, go back and protect your bottle. Cow, come with us. 4 figures rose into the sky at the same time. The gold, black, green, and silver dragons circled in the sky and then flew in different directions. The tall mountain range returned to its calm state. Only the snowy peak, which had been lowered by several hundred meters because of Garamandes, could bear witness to the special changes that had happened before. Early in the morning, Nian Bing stood in front of the window and bathed in the warm sunlight. He casually stretched his body. The feeling of sunbathing after a night of meditation was what he liked the most. Today, the finals of the Hualong Culinary Academy were going to be held. He was going to face Momo and Little Tion. He was confident in himself, but he definitely wouldn't underestimate his opponents. Little Tion's confidence definitely wasn't without reason. He took a comfortable bath and changed into a new set of rough clothes. He rubbed the spatial ring on his hand. The ice and fire origin power in his body circulated harmoniously. The circulation path was extremely clear. The ice and fire elements in the surrounding air continuously gathered towards his body. It was as if magic was taking shape with every movement he made. This kind of feeling was extremely wonderful. Nian Bing knew that he had taken a step forward on the path of magic. These days of continuous training hadn't been in vain. However, what he didn't know was that his achievements today were greatly related to his 8 years of training in the peach blossom forest. During those years, Nian Bing only felt that his magic was gradually improving. In reality, he didn't know that he had been relying on the Ice Goddess Stone and Canon God Stone to continuously train every day. The energy from the two top-quality gems had long since nourished his body. 8 years of continuous meditation had already subtly changed his body. After the Fire Dragon King Garamandes helped him get rid of the acrobatics in his body, the results of his 8 years of meditation finally gradually appeared. This was the main reason why his magic had improved so quickly recently. Of course, the improvement in magic also couldn't be separated from his continuous comprehension. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing used his mental strength to conceal the magic waves around his body. He used his 10 fingers to simply comb his golden hair. After last night's meditation, he suddenly understood some things. Whether it was magic or cooking, there was no need to hide it anymore. The Ice Goddess Priestess was known as every mage on the continent. Who would dare to provoke her? No, the reason was very simple. Because she was strong enough. As long as he showed his strength of the same origin of ice and fire in the eyes of others, then the pressure in the future would become his biggest motivation. Therefore, he had already made 2 decisions. And today, the first thing he had to accomplish was his first goal as a mage. There was still an hour before the start of the finals, and the Teru Square was already crowded with people. Before the competition, Hua Fatso was eating his meal. The waiters of Hua Long Restaurant distributed some snacks made by the restaurant to the spectators. Although the number of snacks was limited and only some of the spectators were able to get them, his way of doing things made the people of Teru City burst into thunderous cheers. For a time, the prestige of Hua Long Restaurant had reached a new height. It was undeniable that Hua Fatso was an extremely outstanding businessman. His vision was very far-sighted, and he was deeply liked by the people of Teru City. This way, there would be more business. On the rostrum, Demon General Arclight was sitting in the center. Dragon Summoner Hillard was sitting beside him, his eyes flashing. The divine light in his eyes was constantly moving, as if he was looking for something in the crowd. Kitty was standing behind her father. She was also looking at the sea of people below. She had full confidence in Nian Bing. Now, she was fantasizing about tasting the delicious food that Nian Bing would make in the finals. Spirit Chef Na Yin was sitting at the edge of the rostrum, leisurely dozing off. Those high-ranking officials of Teru City and the gourmets specially hired by Hua Fatso were whispering anxiously, discussing who would be the final champion this time. Time passed by, and there was only an hour left before the start of the competition. At this time, Fatso, who was sweating profusely, had already changed into a new set of clothes and walked to the central round platform. The staff had also arranged all kinds of materials needed for the competition. The fat on Hua Fatso's face slightly trembled. He held a magic loudspeaker and said, "Everyone, Fatso is dying of exhaustion. Everyone, please be quiet. The finals will start in a while." Although Fatso has lost a few pounds of fat in the past 2 days, Fatso's mood is always excited. It is an honor for so many friends to support the Hua Long cooking competition organized by Fatso. Without your support, there would be no Hua Long today. All right, Fatso, let's not waste any more words. Before the competition starts, let's welcome the 10 contestants. First, let's welcome the only female contestant in the finals, Miss Momo. Following Hua Fatso's shout, Momo, who was still wearing a white chef's robe, slowly walked up to the stage. Her steps were light, and every movement looked very gentle. Although she couldn't be considered a beauty, she was the only female contestant in the finals of the Hua Long cooking competition. Immediately, she received a round of applause from the audience. Fatso smiled and said, "Miss Momo's cooking skills are exquisite, and she has received unanimous praise from the judges. I hope that she can create another good result in the competition. Miss Momo, do you have anything to say to everyone?" Momo smiled and shook her head. She walked to the kitchen table at the side and stood behind it. Hua Fatso smiled and said, "She's a girl, so of course she's a bit shy. All right, let's welcome the next contestant, Little Tion." As he dragged out his last word, little Tion agilely stepped onto the rotating platform. Today, he was wearing a warrior's outfit. It was also white, and he had broad shoulders and a thin waist. In addition to his handsome face and faint arrogance, he immediately received a round of cheers from the girls below the stage. Without waiting for Fatty Hua to open his mouth, he took the magic megaphone and said, "I am very honored to be able to enter the finals of this competition. Although this is what I have long expected, there is only one result that I am satisfied with in today's finals, and that is to be the champion. Second place is meaningless to me. I will show all my skills." The crowd's cheers weren't as enthusiastic as when Momo went up on stage. After all, everyone didn't like arrogant chefs. Lil Tion was just like Nian Bing yesterday. Many people looked at him with disdain. Fatty Hua wasn't dissatisfied with Lil Tion's performance. To him, chefs with excellent cooking skills all had their own personalities. Only such chefs would not be mediocre. Next, under Hua Fatso's introduction, another 7 chefs went up on stage. They were all elites of the cooking world that had emerged from this competition. Just from their auras, they were already very different from the contestants in the semifinals. The 9 of them stood on the rotating platform as if they each had their own territory. No one gave in to their auras. Hua Fatso coughed and said, "All right, let's welcome the last contestant to enter the finals, Nian Bing. Yesterday, he gave me a great shock. That wonderful 6 filigree spiral pepper made me gasp in amazement. I hope that he can show us some magical cooking skills today. Let's welcome Chef Nian Bing." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone waited for Nian Bing to appear. However, there was no new figure at the entrance of the rotating platform. Hua Fatso revealed an awkward expression and said again, "Let's welcome Chef Nian Bing to the stage." After calling out again, there was still no sign of Nian Bing. Hua Fatso frowned and said loudly, "Is Chef Nian Bing here yet? If you don't go up on stage, it means that you have given up on this competition." He had already spent a lot of time introducing the top 9 chefs. Now, it was almost time for the competition to begin. At that moment, the west side of the Teru Plaza suddenly turned fiery red. Demon Marshal Guguang suddenly stood up. A layer of faint silver light flashed as he looked in the direction of the fiery red light. At that moment, Dragon's cry rang out. The sound shook the entire plaza and attracted the gazes of everyone. Instantly, a commotion broke out because no one knew what was happening there. At that moment, a ball of red light suddenly rose into the air. The shape of the red light was revealed. It turned out to be a giant dragon made of flames. The dragon was more than 10 meters long. Although it was made of flames, its head, body, and claws were very clear. The loud and clear dragon roar came from its mouth. The sudden appearance of this magnificent scene shocked everyone present. Demon Marshal Guguang was startled. Was this a troublemaker? Looking at the appearance of this fire dragon, it should be at least a spell of rank 8 or above. It was actually a magic shooter. There were many people in the plaza. Once this kind of high-level spell exploded, it would definitely cause countless casualties. As a commander of the Northeast Field Army, Guguang didn't dare to be negligent. If something happened in the Teru Plaza, even he couldn't bear the responsibility. Just as he was about to use his dochi to destroy the fire dragon, Hillard pressed down on his shoulder. "Don't worry, that's not an enemy. It's Nian Bing. Look at the dragon's head." After listening to Hillard's words, Guguang noticed that there was a person standing on the dragon's head. He was wearing ordinary clothes, had long blonde hair, and a handsome face. It was Nian Bing who entered the finals of the Hualong culinary competition with 6-strand spiral pepper yesterday. Seeing this, Guguang couldn't help but be surprised. Isn't he a chef? How did he become a magician? Hillard said indifferently, "The last time I saw him, he was a great magician. However, although his magic has improved, it's impossible for him to reach the realm of a magic shooter so quickly. Although this fire dragon looks gorgeous, it's just a little clever in the control of magic. Its real rank is only rank 6. I haven't seen him for more than half a year. This kid's tricks are much more than before." Kitty's beautiful big eyes were like stars. "Wow, Brother Nian Bing is so handsome. This magic is great. Daddy, When can my little stutterer use it? I want a dragon too. Hillard smiled and said, You little girl, now you know the consequences of not working hard. If you want to have your own dragon, you need to reach a higher level of strength. It's not something that can be obtained by just talking. Do you understand? Unless your mental strength is more than 60% of mine, I won't let you try to control your little stutterer. A dignified dragon was actually given such a name by you. Sigh. While they were talking, Nian Bing had already arrived at the top of the round platform under the escort of the huge fire dragon. Nian Bing stood on the dragon's back with her hands behind her back. Hua Fatso nodded and said, I'm sorry, there are too many people outside. I had to use this method to come in. After all, Hua Fatso was a person who had seen the world. After a short moment of surprise, he immediately smiled and said, So you're not only a chef, but also a powerful magician. This is the first time I've seen such a strange combination of professions. Since you're already here, let's prepare for the competition. Under the control of Nian Bing's mental strength, the fire dragon lowered its big head and sent her directly to the round platform. The scorching air completely disappeared the moment Nian Bing stepped on the round platform. The fire dragon turned into sparks and was blown away by the wind. The blonde Nian Bing didn't say anything more and went directly to the last kitchen table. The whole scene became more lively because of the appearance of Nian Bing's appearance. Fire was the most revered magic element in the Huarong Empire. The gorgeous fire dragon ignited the atmosphere of the whole arena. All kinds of cheers sounded one after another. After all, how many people could see that the fire dragon was strong in appearance, but weak in reality like Hillard? Didn't Nian Bing have the ability to use the true fire dragon? Of course not. Having reached the level of Archmage, he was already close to being able to control a spell of the 8th level, like the fire dragon. However, he was only using the fire dragon to send himself onto the stage, not to fight. The rational him would naturally prioritize conserving magic power. Since he could achieve the same effect, why waste so much? Little Tian and Momo, who were originally the most likely to win the competition, were completely suppressed by Nian Bing. It was quite a coincidence. Nian Bing was standing between Momo and Little Tian. Nian Bing smiled in a friendly manner while Little Tian's eyes were filled with a challenging flame. Nian Bing looked at Little Tian and smiled. Do you still think you can beat me now? Little Tian coldly said, Why not? Although the fire magic you know is very beneficial to your cooking, that doesn't mean that your cooking is better than mine. Let's see who's better. There's no point in saying anything now. Nian Bing smiled. Is that what you think? Very well. I would also like to know what you're relying on. Let's see if you surprise me more. Or if I surprise you more. The competition had yet to begin. The rotating platform was filled with the smell of gunpowder. Hua Fatso chuckled. He looked at Nian Bing and then at Little Tian. In his heart, these two were rising stars in the cooking world. In this competition, the strongest person representing the Hualong restaurant was Momo. Fatty Hua had originally hoped that Momo could get first place to show the prestige of the Hualong restaurant. However, he had a better plan now. Nian Bing and Little Tian were top-notch chefs with real skills. As long as he could recruit one of them, it would be much better than those who had a false reputation. After coughing, Hua Fatso loudly said through the magic loudspeaker, All right, it's about time. I've already announced the rules. The finals will be divided into 3 stages. The first stage will be held in the morning, the second stage will be held in the afternoon, and the last stage will be held in the evening. If everyone is hungry, my Hualong restaurant has prepared some simple food and water for everyone. I'll only charge you the cost price. You can go and buy them. I, Hua Fatso, will definitely not make a profit at this time. As soon as he said that, the audience cheered. Even if it was ordinary food, the Hualong restaurant's food was definitely better than the food outside. Nian Bing looked at Hua Fatso and thought to herself, this guy is really talented. It would be a waste if he didn't go into diplomacy. Smiling slightly, Hua Fatso said, Don't be so polite, everyone. This is what I should do. In the first stage of the competition, the judges will decide the main ingredient and the 10 finalists will cook it. Now, I'll announce the main ingredient, that is... At this point, he paused for a moment and continued, Watermelon. Watermelon not only shocked the audience, but also the chefs on the stage could not help but be surprised. No one thought that these judges would come up with such a strange main ingredient. Watermelon contains a lot of water and is the most common ingredient for fruit plates. It is cool and juicy, tastes sweet, and has the effect of relieving summer heat. However, it seems that it is not so easy to cook with watermelon. While the chefs were in the process of thinking, the competition staff had already brought the main ingredient. It was really difficult for Hua Fatso. The 10 watermelons of the 10 chefs were almost the same size, and there was no difference. Nian Bing lowered her head to look at the watermelons, and then looked at Hua Fatso. She knew that these watermelons were not only the same size, but also the same degree of ripeness. Only in this way could the fairness of the competition be seen. Little Tian held his own watermelon and kept throwing it up, but his eyes fell on Yinbing. He said with some schadenfreude, "So what if you're a magician? I want to see how you apply fire magic on a fireproof watermelon." Nian looked at her own watermelon and stroked the even tiger skin pattern with her hand. She said indifferently, "You don't care about what's going on outside and only focus on writing. You better take care of yourself." Kacha, there was already an impatient chef who cut his own watermelon in half. Nian eyes swept over and saw that the watermelon that was cut was just right. It was red and black and had a sweet smell. It was indeed a good watermelon. Since the finals were split into 3 stages, it was obvious that the final champion would be decided by the sum of the results of the 3 stages. This was the first round, and no matter what, she had to take the initiative. Since that was the case, she could not hide her abilities. At the thought of this, Nian Bing carefully placed the watermelon in front of him and slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, everything around him was completely filtered out by his spiritual power. Not a single noise could affect his mood at all. Fatso Hua had already returned to the rostrum when Nian Bing and Little Tian were arguing. Now, there were only the MC and the 10 chefs on the round stage. 7 of the 10 top chefs were busy. They were either cutting the watermelons, removing the seeds, or carving. In an instant, the round stage was bustling with activity. The 3 people who did not move were Nian Bing, Little Tian, and Momo. Little Tian and Momo were carefully looking at their own watermelons. As the main ingredient of the first round, they cleverly chose to observe it carefully before cooking. Only Nian Bing's expression was the strangest. She gently pressed her hands on both sides of the watermelon and closed her eyes. No one knew what she was doing. Her mental power covered the entire watermelon like an eye. In an instant, Nian Bing's mental power was filled with a red color. It was the red color of the watermelon. Under the effect of her mental power, she could not hear anything other than the sound of the watermelon. She could only slowly spin the watermelon in her hands and use her mental power to carefully investigate. What she needed now was to understand everything that she needed. That was because she could not make any mistakes in the control of her cooking skills. This required that not only did she have to be completely clear about the texture of the watermelon, she also had to understand the invisible watermelon inside. To an ordinary person, this was naturally impossible. However, Nian Bing's mental power was so strong that it far surpassed that of an ordinary sorcerer. This was not difficult for her, but she had to constantly strive for perfection. She could not be careless. Among the 3 of them, Momo was the first to move. A small and exquisite carving knife appeared in her nimble hands. The snow-floating heavenly spirit hands was equally magical when it came to carving. Complex patterns gradually appeared on the watermelon that she kept spinning. Chapter 88. Not long after Momo started, Little Tian started as well. His watermelon was split into 8 portions by the illusion. The complicated movements were done with great ease in his hands. When he started cooking, he no longer paid attention to Nian Bing. He was completely focused on his own cooking. However, even after the other 9 chefs started cooking, Nian Bing still maintained her original position. Her eyes were still closed as she slowly spun the watermelon in her hands. With watermelon as the main ingredient, most of the chefs chose to stir-fry it. After all, the fruit platter was simply too ordinary. In order to win by surprise, Little Tian's cooking method naturally took advantage of the situation. Time slowly passed. The audience below the stage was completely silent. They stared at the 10 chefs on the rotating platform, especially Nian Bing, who appeared as a fire dragon. However, they were gradually disappointed. The platform spun round and round, but Nian Bing still didn't do anything. From the audience, it seemed like she was sleeping while standing. The time limit for cooking didn't change. Every competition had a time limit of 2 hours. After 2 hours passed, almost half of the chefs had finished their work. However, Nian Bing was still standing there. Little Tian had already finished his dish. He let out a long breath and looked at the work in his hands with satisfaction. He was filled with confidence. Under the pressure of Nian Bing's appearance, he displayed his culinary skills. During the process of cooking, he used more than 10 exquisite techniques. He was very confident that he could win. He turned his head to look at Nian Bing. He wanted to see what this magic chef had done. When he saw that Nian Bing was still standing there, he couldn't help but be stunned. Why wasn't she moving? What was she thinking? As a top-grade chef, he naturally knew that Nian Bing couldn't be sleeping at this time. However, even if she was observing the ingredients, she was still taking too long. Just as little Tian was puzzled, Nian Bing finally moved. Her eyes slowly opened, revealing 2 cold lights. When that beautiful blue light jumped into her hand, little Tian couldn't help but tremble. He involuntarily cried out, "Ghost carving, godly saber." The ghost eagle kept jumping between Nian Bing's 5 fingers, but he was not in a hurry to cut. His left hand rested on the watermelon, and the ghost eagle in his right hand flicked lightly. A plate with a diameter of 1.5 feet appeared on the board. He raised his left hand. The moment the watermelon was placed on the plate, the bottom of the watermelon was cut off by Nian Bing so that it could rest steadily on the plate. Then, 9 small cups of water were picked up by Ghost Condor and placed evenly around the watermelon. The distance between each cup was exactly the same. With a faint smile, Nian Bing's eyes shone brightly. "Little Tian, it's up to you. I want you to be convinced." The blue light kissed the watermelon. This time, Nian Bing didn't use his exquisite carving method, but the penetrating knife method. Every time the ghost eagle stretched out and retracted, it would move the watermelon and take out a watermelon seed, but it only left a small mark on the watermelon. Strangely, there was no watermelon juice flowing out of the small holes. As the watermelon seeds jumped out of the plate one by one, little Tian Di's face became more and more dignified. He racked his brains, but still couldn't figure out how Nian Bing knew where those watermelon seeds were inside the watermelon. It was simply amazing. The ghost eagle kept hovering in Nian Bing's palm. It kept rotating around the watermelon at a seemingly slow speed. Every movement of Nian Bing made the watermelon tremble slightly. But from the surface, there was no change. However, the watermelon didn't change at all. A clear chant rang out from Nian Bing's mouth. His movements gradually became faster as he chanted, "Ghost bewildering moon, ice valley shatters." Carving into a jade green, phoenix return. Divine music song, clear sound. The sound of the knife moves the clouds and startles the birds. It was still the ghost eagle divine knife for universe as the head of the chant, but it was completely different from before. The rain dragon dance knife technique performed by the ghost eagle could become the #1 knife in the cooking world, not only because it could carve a real dragon, but also because its subtlety was extensive and profound. It could be applied to every field of cooking. What Nian Bing was performing at this time was another form of the rain dragon dance knife technique. This was studied by Cha Ji after he returned to the peach blossom forest. Compared to before, its subtlety was much better. Little Tian was stunned. Of course, he had heard of the rain dragon dance knife technique, but this was the first time he saw it. On the rostrum, the god of spiritual cooking, who had been lazy, stood up excitedly. His body was trembling slightly, and he muttered to himself, "It appeared again. Did it appear again? The ghost eagle. It's really the ghost eagle. Dragon mist dance saber technique. Old ghost, I didn't expect you to have taught such an outstanding disciple. So what if the lotus root is broken and the thread is still connected? This is a true divine saber. Old ghost, you have suppressed us all our lives. and now you have taught such an abnormal disciple. The world has really changed. These young children are much more talented than us at that time. Along with the last word of the chant, Nian Bing fiercely raised the knife. When the ghost eagle reached the highest point in the right hand, it disappeared in an instant, and everything returned to calm. Watermelon, it was that watermelon. If one didn't look carefully, it didn't seem to have changed, but everything was over. Nian Bing was the last to finish, but only a few people could see that he had finished. 10 dishes with watermelon as the main ingredient were placed on the chef's cooking tables. Hua Fatso, Nayan, Hillard, Kitty, and the judges went on stage one after another. The MC announced the judging process. First, the chefs would describe the characteristics of their dish, and then the judges would taste it. In the end, the judges would determine the scores. The judges would use stars as the score, and 10 stars was the full score. They would proceed according to the order of the judges. The first one to describe was Momo. Nian Bing placed his hand on the watermelon in front of him, which hadn't changed its shape, and carefully listened to her description. The MC indicated that Momo could start and handed the magic loudspeaker to her. Momo took the magic loudspeaker and smiled calmly. My dish is called Emerald Crystal Cage, and it uses watermelon as the main ingredient. I first removed the dark green outer layer of the watermelon, turning it white. Then, I carved a simple carving of the Hua Long restaurant on it. I started from a third of the watermelon, then dug out the seeds, and carefully hollowed out the inside of the watermelon. At this moment, the entire outer layer of the watermelon looks completely transparent. From the outside, you can see the changes in color inside. It looks like a crystal. After removing the seeds, I cut the watermelon into strips and wrapped them in egg yolks to keep the water in. Then, I soaked them in coconut juice. The taste of watermelon is very pure, and there are very few ingredients that can match it. Coconut juice is one of the few ingredients that can complement the watermelon. After soaking them for a while, I heated up the pot and added water. I dipped the watermelon strips in some batter and cooked them. During the cooking process, I used all kinds of supplementary ingredients to make the juice. When the batter wrapped around the watermelon strips was cooked, I directly poured it into the outer layer of the watermelon. Then, I poured the thick juice on top of the watermelon and covered the watermelon. From the outside, this dish looks like a crystal ball, and the watermelon inside looks like a jade under the contrast of the vegetable juice. That's why I named it Emerald Crystal Cage. This dish is mainly fresh and sweet, and with the fragrance of the watermelon, it can suit the tastes of people of any age. Judges, please taste it. Looking at the crystal ball in front of Momo that looked like white jade, it was hard to imagine that Sing Ching was a watermelon. Nian Bing exclaimed in his heart. Just this idea alone was already very original. Although Momo made it sound simple, the technique required to make this dish was very high. Just the almost transparent carving on the watermelon surface already required very high craftsmanship. Furthermore, when the interior was hollowed out, it had to be evenly balanced. If it wasn't for the fact that she was extremely skilled, it would have been very easy for her to dig out the watermelon shell. Momo made it sound very simple, but Nianbing thought that she must have used some special techniques and ingredients during the process of making the juice. If not, the juice wouldn't have a jade green color. The combination of juice and watermelon was a very good idea, but she didn't know how it would taste. The judges all looked at Momo with praise. Momo personally opened the watermelon shell and invited them to taste it. A look of praise appeared on the face of one of the judges. Demon General Arclight smiled and said, "The taste is not bad. It's very special and very unique. I think it can get full marks." His words immediately gained the approval of the others, and the judges all nodded. Kitty slipped to Nian Bing's side and whispered, "Big brother Nian Bing, the food that sister made is really delicious. It has a light fragrance and a faint sweetness. It's very comfortable when you eat it. You have to work hard." Wait, little Tion suddenly stood up and looked at Momo's dish. "I think that it's a bit early for the judges to make a decision." Demon General Arclight's gaze landed on little Tion's face. "Oh, are you saying that Miss Momo's dish isn't enough to get 10 stars? Little Tion shook her head and said calmly, "I didn't taste it, so I can't judge how good Miss Momo's skills are. However, if the judges are in a hurry to give a score, it's unfair to the chefs behind us. After all, the highest score is 10 stars. If Miss Momo gets such a score, then even if the chefs behind her surpass her in terms of skill, they can only tie in terms of points. This is unfair. I hope that the judges can give their comments after tasting the dishes made by all the chefs. Only then can it be considered a public treat. Her words were firm and powerful. What she said was the loophole in the judging. The judges looked at each other and didn't know how to decide. After all, what little Tion said was reasonable. Demon General Arclight turned to Hua Fatso and said, "Do you think that the judging rules need to be changed?" Before Hua Fatso could say anything, Spirit Chef Na Yin, who had been silent all this time, said, "I think that the rules need to be changed. Chef Little Tion's words are reasonable. We can change it according to his words." Arclight turned to Momo and said, "Miss Momo, what do you think?" Momo smiled and said, "Little Tion is right. This change is very suitable. I think that his suggestion is very good. This will be fair to all the chefs." Arclight smiled and said, "All right, then it's decided. After we judge the other 9 chefs' dishes, we will give a final score. Little Tion, it's your turn next." Momo handed the magic loudspeaker in her hand to Little Tion. Little Tion revealed a confident smile and said, "The most outstanding part of my dish is its fragrance. It's called jade fragrance. Everyone, please take a look." As he said that, he pointed at the plate in front of him. On the plate, there was a white cube. It indeed looked like a jade. It was a watermelon rind with its green outer layer removed. If one looked carefully, they could see that the half-foot square, white jade was pieced together by many small pieces. However, there weren't any gaps between them. Red light flowed within the white jade, as if there was something inside. The surface of the white jade was sparkling and translucent, reflecting a dazzling luster under the sunlight. Little Tion Hui smiled and said, "Everyone should be able to see that this cube of mine is made from 14 pieces of watermelon rind. The rind itself is edible. After being processed by my special pearl, it became even crisper. Inside the watermelon rind, I hollowed out the rind. Then, I used watermelon rind as the main ingredient and poured it into the rind. Finally, I sealed the rind of the watermelon rind and piled it together to form this jade fragrance. I won't introduce too much. Judges, please taste it. I believe that this dish won't disappoint you." After saying that, he passed the magic loudspeaker to the MC at the side. He stood with his hands behind his back and didn't say anything else. His gaze met with Nian Bing, as if he was asking, "Can you compare to me?" Nian Bing's expression didn't change, but her heart was in turmoil. On the surface, many people might think that Little Tion's method of hollowing out the rind of the watermelon rind was very difficult, especially when he had to seal it up neatly. However, Nian Bing understood that the crux of this dish was the juice inside each piece of watermelon rind. Since Little Tion said that this dish was mainly fragrant, then the juice made from the rind of the watermelon rind would definitely have a fragrant characteristic. How'd he do it? What could be mixed with the watermelon rind without affecting the taste of the watermelon, and instead make it even more fragrant? While Nian Bing was deep in thought, the judges had already taken action. Just as Little Tion had said, every watermelon strip could be seen flashing with a red light. When the demon martial arc light was the first to bite through a watermelon strip, a thick aroma immediately filled the rotating platform. The thick aroma contained the sweetness of the watermelon, but the aroma was even thicker. Nian Bing sniffed hard and quickly identified the various seasonings in her heart. Very soon, she understood. She raised her head to look at Little Tion and nodded at him. "It smells so good." Kitty's beautiful moan seemed to have said the thoughts of all the judges. The crisp and refreshing watermelon rind and the warm and fragrant juice caused Little Tion's dish to become almost perfect. After a while, every judge, including the spirit chef, revealed an intoxicated expression. In reality, when Nian Bing identified the contents of the watermelon rind, he already knew that Little Tion had surpassed Momo. Although the main ingredient in the watermelon rind was the rind of the watermelon, the true source of the fragrance was the yolk of the salted duck egg. The yolk of the salted duck egg had always been a very fragrant food, but when it was still raw, it was in a liquid state like a normal egg yolk. Only after it was cooked and turned into a solid state would its fragrance be released. However, little Tian had used the yolk of the salted duck egg to make this dish. Although Nian Bing understood the basic principles of this dish, he knew that he couldn't do it. Just not turning the salted duck egg from a liquid state to a solid state was something that Nian Bing couldn't do. At that moment, every single one of the judges understood what little Tian meant. Indeed, no matter how they looked at it, his dish was better than Momo's. Next, the other 7 chefs introduced their dishes one by one. However, compared to Momo and little Tian, whether it was in terms of creativity or taste, they were much inferior. After the judges walked around the rotating table, they finally arrived in front of Nian Bing. After seeing the beautiful dishes made by the first 9 chefs, when they saw the watermelon in Nian Bing's hands, they couldn't help but reveal curious expressions. Because of the 6 shredded spiral pepper yesterday, this time, no one dared to look down on Nian Bing, especially when he used the beautiful fire dragon magic to get on the stage. That scene became the focus of this competition. The MC passed the magic loudspeaker to Nian Bing. He looked at the watermelon in his hands in confusion and said, "Chef Nian Bing, please start your introduction." Nian Bing smiled faintly and said through the magic loudspeaker, "Actually, there's nothing much to introduce about this dish of mine. Perhaps they've seen how I made it. When I made this dish, I didn't use any seasoning. I believe that watermelons are the best of the best fruits, and no other fruit can have the characteristics of watermelons. Therefore, with watermelons as the main dish, there's no need for other ingredients to complement it. Since watermelon is used to make a fruit platter, it should be used as such. Why should I spend so much effort to cook it? There's nothing much to introduce about my dish. Please take a look. The name of this dish is Phoenix Blood Juice." As he spoke, he let go of his left hand that was pressing on the watermelon and lifted the plate. The watermelon was naturally in the center of the plate that was half a foot in diameter. Around the watermelon were 9 cups. The distance between each cup was exactly the same. However, was this a dish? Just as everyone was still in doubt, a voice suddenly rang out. The watermelon on the plate suddenly moved on its own. 9 thin watermelon shreds fell down and landed in the 9 cups. Immediately after, those shreds of watermelon gradually turned red. A drop of bright red juice slid down the shreds of watermelon into the cups. Perhaps the audience below couldn't see clearly, but the judges on the stage were shocked, including Spirit Chef Na Yin. No one understood what Nian Bing had done. The red watermelon juice flowed down the shreds of watermelon into the cups. As more and more juice filled the cups, the watermelon began to emit a slight cracking sound. It was like an egg that was about to hatch. The sound was fine and crisp. There wasn't the slightest pause. Just when everyone was shocked to the point they were unable to close their mouths, a change suddenly occurred. The clearly visible cracks on the watermelon suddenly emitted a faint golden radiance. Suddenly, a dazzling golden radiance rose from the watermelon and shot into the sky. At this moment, no one was able to see clearly what was happening in front of them. The watermelon that Nian Bing was holding was like the sun, emitting an abnormally strong luster. It was a holy aura, a gentle aura, and a dense fragrance that seemed to bring people to the fields. That refreshing and ice-cold feeling refreshed the heart and mind, and it was so comfortable. Finally, the golden radiance gradually dimmed. Only the plate was still covered by a layer of golden light, preventing people from seeing what was happening inside. Nian Bing waved her right hand, and the golden light disappeared in an instant. Cries of surprise rang out, because everyone discovered that in the center of the plate there was actually a vivid and lifelike fire phoenix spreading its wings. At the phoenix's feet, there were pieces of flame-shaped carvings. It looked so mystical. An ice-cold aura pervaded the air. The fire phoenix that was sparkling like agate seemed to be alive, faintly fluctuating with the circulation of the halo. Nian Bing placed the plate in front of everyone. "Please have a taste. Phoenix blood juice." Arclight was the first to pick up the cup. He took a deep look at Nian Bing and lightly drank a mouthful of the juice. Immediately, an indescribable sweetness mixed with ice-cold aura penetrated his lungs and spread to every corner of his body. At this moment, the pores on his skin opened up. Arc light shivered, and an abnormally comfortable feeling spread throughout his body. He couldn't wait to finish the entire cup of watermelon juice in one gulp. The holy aura nourished his body, and the blood in his meridians seemed to flow more smoothly. It was so comfortable, as if he had been baptized by a light magic. His mental state immediately reached its peak. The 9 kinds of delicacies that he had tasted before had completely faded away at this moment. His mind was only filled with the gorgeous fire phoenix in front of him. Subconsciously, Arc Light exclaimed in admiration. Good phoenix blood juice. Nian Bing, I'm really curious. Although I know that you used magic in this dish, what kind of magician are you? The appearance of the fire dragon, the carving of the watermelon, and the baptism of light magic just now. All these shouldn't appear on the same person at the same time. Nian Bing faintly smiled. There are many miraculous aspects of magic that we are still unable to comprehend. This is only a dish. There aren't as many mysteries as you said. Actually, this dish of his couldn't be considered as a very amazing dish. It was only a watermelon juice that was infused with light aura. However, Spirit Chef Nayan had once said that a dish had 5 aspects: color, aroma, taste, meaning, and shape. When one of those aspects reached an unimaginable realm, even if the other aspects were lacking, it could be completely made up for. Nian Bing's Phoenix Blood Juice had already reached the pinnacle in color, taste, and shape. Its aroma and taste were also not bad. Adding on the miraculous effects of magic, it naturally received the praise of the judges. No one felt that this dish was ordinary. Little Tian walked to Nian Bing's side. He said in a low voice, "Why do you have so many elements of magic? Using magic to cook, this must be your unique skill. However, I am very suspicious of the effects of magic on cooking. Other than being gorgeous, what else can it do? I lost the first round, but not because of your magic, but because of the continent's #1 knife technique, Rain Dragon Dance. However, the same thing won't happen again." Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "I will show you the effects of magic on culinary skills. Your cooking skills are not bad, but if you want to win against me, your performance just now is not enough." He understood little Tian's current feelings. If one wasn't a real magician, they would definitely not be able to feel the effects of magic on cooking. It wasn't just gorgeous. Magic could play an extremely important role in all aspects of cooking. Just now, Nian Bing had used a lightning-fast technique to remove the watermelon seeds. This was the effect of spiritual energy. Without the miraculous use of spiritual energy, how could he detect the position of every watermelon seed? The results of the competition were quickly announced. It was just as Nian Bing and Little Tian had deduced from their conversation. Nian Bing obtained a full score of 10 stars, while Little Tian obtained 9 stars and Momo obtained 8 stars. They were the top 3 of the first round of the competition. In order to allow the chefs to perform better, the second round of the competition would be held in the afternoon. The 10 chefs went down the stage one by one. Under the guidance of the staff, they went to the resting area to rest. The second round of the competition would be held in the afternoon. The resting area had all kinds of the best equipment. Every chef in the finals had a comfortable sofa to rest on. All kinds of snacks and drinks were provided. Nian Bing, come out for a moment. Nian Bing sat down in the resting area. Before she could sit down properly, she was called out by the spirit chef, Na Yin. "Senior, are you looking for me?" Nian Bing smiled at Na Yin. She had a lot of respect for this senior in the cooking world. Na Yin nodded and said, "Nian Bing, how is your master? Originally, when I first saw you, I could tell that you were Old Ghost disciple. However, I wasn't completely sure. Today, you used the Rain Dragon's Dance, allowing me to see Old Ghost's unique skill. Even Old Ghost had never used the watermelon carving before. It seems like you've already surpassed him." Nian Bing lowered his head and said dejectedly, "No, my culinary skills are far inferior to my master's. I only had a slight advantage because of my magic. If I hadn't frozen the watermelon pulp beforehand, I wouldn't have been able to carve it like that. In terms of culinary experience, I can't compare to seniors like you. I still have a long way to go. As for that senior Yin, my master passed away half a year ago. Nyan's body shook. What? You said Old Ghost is dead? How could that be? That's impossible. Old Ghost's body is the best among us. How could he die? Nyan Bing let out a long sigh. Everyone has to die. When Master lost the bet, he severed the tendons in his hands and legs. The impact on his body was not as heavy as the impact on his mind. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't be able to bear it. When I finished my craft, Master passed away. He passed away very peacefully. Perhaps it was because he had already passed down his skills. Dead, Old Ghost actually died just like that. It seems like us old fellows are really gradually withdrawing from the stage of history. The future of the cooking world will belong to you youngsters. All right, you should go and rest. I'm leaving. Nyan left. His back seemed a little bleak. When he left, the deep sadness in his eyes made Nyan Bing think of everything that happened in Jiaji. Master, oh Master, you have so many good friends who miss you. Why did you have to live in seclusion? If you could have maintained a better mood, perhaps you wouldn't have passed away so early. Big brother Nyan Bing, you're amazing. Kitty jumped out of nowhere and giggled. She came to Nyan Bing's side and held his big hand. Her eyes were full of excitement. Seeing Kitty, Nyan Bing's heavy mood suddenly eased a lot. How is it? Is the watermelon juice good? Kitty shouted and giggled. Of course it's good, but it's too little. Big brother Nyan Bing, next time you make it for pineapple, okay? Nyan Bing smiled. Of course it's good. Kitty, you should go back. Don't make Senior she-wide anxious. He didn't want Kitty to be reprimanded by Hillard because of him. Kitty giggled and said, of course it's good, but it's too little. Big brother Nyan Bing, next time you make it for Kitty, okay? Nyan Bing smiled. Of course it's good. Kitty, you should go back. Don't make Senior she-wide anxious. He didn't want Kitty to be reprimanded by Hillard because of him. Kitty nodded obediently and said, Big brother, you must win the next 2 games. Kitty will cheer for you. Nyan Bing smiled. I'll do that. But if you're willing to give your pets to me to make ingredients, maybe I'll have a better chance of winning. Kitty was shocked. Seeing Nyan Bing's strange smile, she realized that she had been fooled. Big brother Nyan Bing, you're so bad. Don't keep thinking about other people's pets. They're all good. I'm leaving. After Kitty left, Nyan Bing returned to the lounge. The other 9 chefs didn't talk to each other and did their own things. Nyan Bing was also happy to be idle. He sat in his seat and entered a half-meditative state. The pursuit of magic was what he desired most now. He didn't want to waste any time. Hillard and Kitty were invited by Arclight to rest in the barracks. Sitting in the comfortable carriage, Hillard closed his eyes and thought about the appearance of Nyan Bing's dish. At first, he thought that Nyan Bing was just a great magician. However, when the light shone, he realized that he had underestimated Nyan Bing. Magicians with the same origin of ice and fire were extremely rare. How could he have the power of light? What was going on? Should he act according to the original plan and make him unable to come into contact with his daughter? Just as Hillard was deep in thought, Demon Martial Arclight spoke. Although his soft voice sounded very comfortable, it was hard for a man to accept such a voice. Old Shi, what do you think of that chef called Nyan Bing? You're an expert in magic. How could he have 3 types of magic? Is there a magician on the continent who can cast 3 types of magic at the same time? It can't be that bad. In my opinion, he should be a fire mage. As for ice and light magic, he should be using magic scrolls to cast them. Chapter 89. Hillard smiled and said, Arclight, you are wrong this time. You don't have to beat around the bush. I didn't know him before, and so did Kitty. He is a magician of the same origin of ice and fire. He is very talented in magic and has reached the realm of a great magician at a young age. As for the light magic he used, it is like you said. It is very likely that he used a magic scroll. However, even with my spiritual power, I didn't feel too much spiritual fluctuation when he used magic. If he used a scroll, his movements seemed to be too subtle. Arclight smiled and said, It's good that you know each other. Old Shi, are you familiar with him? You know that my Northeast Army lacks mages the most. Apart from the Central Army, which is directly recruited by the state. The other armies all recruit mages on their own. The Central Army's Mage Legion is really enviable. That old rogue's appeal is very strong. Now, I only have about 20 mages on my side, and only one archmage. Their strength is uneven. If possible, I hope to recruit more mages into the Legion, and we could discuss the benefits. Do you think you can help me with this? Hillard glared at him and said, Help you? Stop dreaming. I'm not familiar with Nianbing at all. Also, don't forget that he is a chef. If you have the ability, go and recruit him yourself. However, I don't care who you recruit, but don't think about us white people. We summoners will never join any country's army. Arclight smiled and said, You don't have to be so heartless. After all, we are friends. You have so many people. How good would it be if you were willing to join the army? Report. A loud shout came from outside the carriage. Arclight's face became serious and said, Speak. Reporting to Marshall, there's a group of people outside the city. It is said that they are from the Ice Moon Empire who came to our country to participate in the new magician competition. There are more than 20 of them, including guards. It is said that they are led by the 7th prince of the Ice Moon Empire, Yanfeng. Are they allowed to enter our country? Arclight hesitated and said, They can enter our country. However, ask them to show their participation documents and then let them enter the city. Send our men to spy on them secretly. If they do anything unusual, report to me immediately. Yes, Lord Marshal. Kitty had fallen asleep while leaning against her father. Hillard looked at the Arc of Light and said, Is the Five Nations New Mages competition about to start again? Why is it that the Prince of the Ice Moon Empire escorts the contestants? Arclight shook his head and said, I don't want to invite you. According to our information, the 7th Prince of the Ice Moon Empire has never been favored. He is obsessed with martial arts and is said to be very handsome. Seeing the faint, evil aura on Arclight's face, Hillard shook his head helplessly. He said you. She couldn't change this bad habit of hers. She even had to think about other people's princes. Arclight, you're not young anymore. Shouldn't you find a woman and start a family? Arclight said helplessly, Old she, you also know that I have no interest in women. Sai, why am I a man? I don't think I'll be able to change my sexual orientation for the rest of my life. You don't have to persuade me. I'm not the only child in our family. My parents have already given up on me. Well, if I have the chance, I want to meet this 7th prince. If only he was as handsome as Nianbing. However, Nianbing is not my style. That kind of handsome young man is the favorite of girls. I like manly men the most. Okay. If you continue, I'm going to throw up. You're the famous Nanjuhua. It's really unbearable to be with you. I'm warning you. Don't show such a lewd expression in front of my daughter in the future. Otherwise, I'll make it so that you can't even get a man. Hillard looked at the Arc of Light with disgust and reprimanded him angrily. Arclight snorted and said gently and evilly, Old she, I'm afraid that other than His Majesty, you're the only one who dares to call me Nanjuhua in front of me. Hillard rolled his eyes and said, You don't have to threaten me. When you're strong enough to reach the level of God tier, you can find me for revenge. Don't forget that you lost to me a few times. Arclight said dejectedly, Okay, I'll admit defeat. Damn it, other than that perverted ice goddess priestess, you're the only one on the continent that I really admire. I, Arclight, have lived for 38 years, and I lost the most miserably when I competed with you. Your spiritual magic is too perverted, coupled with your dragon summoning technique. Who can compete with you? If you have the ability, then go and get a woman with my ice goddess priestess. I heard that she's still an old virgin. If you can get her, I, Arclight, will be willing to do anything for you. Maybe it was because Arclight's voice was a little louder. Kitty woke up from her sleep. Little snake, what are you doing? Getting a girlfriend? Who do you want to get a girlfriend with? Arclight was suddenly speechless by Kitty's question. He hurriedly covered it up and said, Nothing. I just told your father that someone from the Ice Moon Empire came to Huarong to participate in a new magician competition. Hearing this, Kitty's eyes lit up. A magician competition? I want to participate too. Dad, let me participate, okay? Hillard frowned and said, Kitty, don't mess around. That's not something you can participate in. You have to represent the country. Also, Do you think this is child's play? With your current level, you can't even compare to a grand magician. You still want to participate in the magician competition? After the finals of the Tianhua Dragon Culinary Competition is over, you'll come home with me and continue to practice your magic. When you have some achievements, I'll consider whether to bring you out to play. You little girl, you're just too curious. As he said that, he glared at Arclight. Outside Taru City, after showing their credentials for the competition, a group of 20 people from the Ice Moon Empire entered Taru City in 3 carriages. At the front of the group was a tall white horse. Yin Feng, who was wearing silver armor, looked very handsome riding on the horse. His face was still emitting a cold aura. His expression was very calm, and there was no emotion in his eyes. Behind him, there were 6 fully armed warriors and 3 carriages. There were also 10 guards around the carriages. The group entered the city in a grandiose manner. When he first entered Taru City, Yin Feng was surprised to find that this seemingly bustling city didn't have as many people as he imagined. Looking around, there were very few people on the streets. Even the shops on both sides of the road were mostly closed. Men, why is Taru City so quiet? A knight hurriedly urged his horse forward. He respectfully said, "Your Highness, I'll go and investigate. Our country has a secret in here. For safety reasons, we'll stay there. As long as we pass through Taru Square, we'll arrive at the inn very quickly." Yin Feng nodded and said, "Go and investigate first. See if there's any situation and quickly report back." "Yes, Your Highness. Your Highness." The knight replied and hurried off. Not long after, the knight quickly returned. Seeing Yin Feng's questioning gaze, he hurriedly said, "Your Highness, it's like this. Taru City is holding some dragon culinary competition. The finals are next day, so most of the people have gone to Taru Square to watch the competition. Now there's a sea of people there. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to pass through. Your Highness, you see." Yin Feng looked back at the carriage behind him and said indifferently, "We'll go and take a look. We'll temporarily rest outside Taru Square. After the competition is over, we'll pass through and find a place to stay. San, you two go and buy some clean and fresh food for Miss Bingyun and the priests. We'll gather at Taru Square." Yes. The 2 knights flew away. Yin Feng jumped down from his horse and walked to the second carriage. He said, "Miss Bingyun, there's an important meeting in Taru City today. We may be late for a while before we can reach the accommodation. You can rest in the carriage for the time being." A heavenly voice sounded in the carriage. "Everything will be decided by Your Highness. Bingyun is well in the carriage." The voice coming from the carriage was so beautiful and moving. No music could compare to such a beautiful voice. Unfortunately, this voice was like ice that had been frozen for 10,000 years. When it entered one's ears, it made one shiver. It was as if the person speaking had no emotions at all. Yin Feng furrowed his brows. He had no interest in women to begin with. In addition, this Lady Bingyun was even colder than him. Along the way, although he was in charge of escorting, the number of times he conversed with this Lady Bingyun was no more than 10. Every time, it was at most 3 sentences. He had already gotten used to it. Getting back on the horse, under Yin Feng's lead, the group of horses headed towards Taru Square. Other than simply eating, Yin Bing had been in a half-meditative state during the rest between the first and second matches. Finally, it was time for the second match. Yin Bing slowly opened his eyes and realized that little Tian was standing next to him. He stood up and looked at little Tian. "It's almost time, right?" Little Tian nodded and said, "The same luck won't befall you again. This time, I'll let you see absolute strength. The biggest reward for me in this competition is probably seeing your Earth Dragon Centipede's dance blade technique. I'll also let you see a good show in the second round." Yin Bing smiled. "Little Tian, do you know? If you can beat me, it'll be a good thing for me." After saying that, he walked out of the resting area. "Good thing?" Little Tian frowned. After a while, he muttered to himself, "Victory makes people proud. Defeat makes people improve." Maybe that's what he meant. So, losing in the first round is a good thing for me? Yin Bing, have you never lost before? I haven't either. Let's have a good competition today and see who will be the final victor. Momo walked past little Tion and glanced at him. She smiled and said, "Don't be too stubborn. You're just too competitive. Yin Bing is right. Maybe losing is a good thing." Little Tion smiled. "I understand. However, losing is built on the foundation of using all my strength. If I can't win even after using all my strength, then I'll accept defeat. Let's see if Nian Bing has the ability to do so. Let's go. It's almost time." Nian Bing calmly stepped on the rotating platform and came to his kitchen. Suddenly, a familiar figure broke the peace in his heart. From afar, that person was sitting on a tall horse. His upper body was straight, and he emitted a cold aura. It's him. Why did he come to the Huarong Empire? Nian Bing didn't have a bad impression of Yin Feng. However, he couldn't accept Yin Feng's strange hobbies. When Yin Bing saw Yin Feng naturally saw him on the platform. A rare smile appeared on his face. "Nian Bing, when I heard you were a chef, I didn't dare to believe it. It seems like it's true. Nian Bing, I haven't seen you in half a year. You seem to have become more handsome." When he said this, the cold expression on his face gradually melted. He looked at Nian Bing with a gentler gaze. Luckily, he was quite far away and Nian Bing couldn't see his expression. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the mood to continue the competition. However, although Nian Bing didn't see Yin Feng's expression clearly, he saw the 3 carriages behind him. There was something on the carriages that he was all too familiar with. It was the symbol of the ice flower. In the entire Yangon continent, only the Ice God Tower would use this symbol. Strong hatred instantly filled Nian Bing's heart. The kind and sad faces of his parents kept appearing in his mind. The people in the Ice God Tower were actually the Ice God's companions, who would be in the 3 carriages. At this moment, the carriage in the middle opened a gap. A clear and cold gaze instantly pierced through the distance of nearly a kilometer and met Nian Bing's eyes. Nian Bing's body shook. His spiritual energy fluctuated quickly. Although the cold pressure was a kilometer away, it didn't seem to weaken at all. Nian Bing only felt a chill in his heart. He hurriedly used his spiritual energy to resist the huge pressure. His expression changed slightly, but soon returned to normal. He lowered his head, no longer meeting the cold gaze. He was thinking about who was in the carriage. At this moment, his mood had stabilized. He could feel that the person in the carriage wasn't his archenemy, the priest of the ice goddess. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to withstand the spiritual pressure. After all, the priest of the ice goddess was a god-tier master. However, the person in the carriage gave him an unusually cold feeling. Although his aura wasn't as strong as the priest of the ice goddess, it was very similar. Who could come together with the 7th prince? Yin Feng. All right, after the first round in the morning, Chef Nian Bing is temporarily at the top of the list with 10 stars. We will immediately begin the 2nd round of the test. This time, we will test each chef in turn. We have thought of all the questions in advance. There will be no similarities, so it will be absolutely fair. The drawing of lots will be based on the results of the first round. It will start in reverse order. Hua Fatso's words woke Nian Bing up from his thoughts. He was still in the middle of the competition. Everything could wait until the end of the competition. However, with the people of the Ice God Tower here, it seemed that he couldn't use his Morning Dew dagger. The competition will be held in reverse order. That meant that he was the last one. Little Tion and Momo were in front of him. At this time, the judges had already walked up to the high platform. Demon General Arc Light held a wooden box in his hands and walked in front of the chef who got 10th place in the morning's competition. That chef searched in the box for a long time before taking out a lot. Hua Fatso took the lot and showed the seal on the lot to the audience. Only then did he open the lot and say loudly, "This lot requires the chef who draws the lot to make a soup with mutton. No ingredients are allowed in the soup. The soup must be white in color at the end. The time limit is 1 hour." After hearing the question, that chef immediately moved and ran to the center of the rotating table to take out the mutton. After hearing the question, that chef immediately moved and ran to the center of the rotating table to take out the mutton. Demon General Arc Light walked in front of the second chef and let him continue to draw lots. The lot in the wooden box was very strange. They were all based on one or a few ingredients. Furthermore, There was a special cooking requirement that was done by the chefs. One of the chefs drew a lot and used green onions as the main dish. He was extremely unlucky. If the first round of the competition was a competition of strength, then in the second round of the competition, luck played an important role. After Momo finished drawing her lot, she went to make her dish. Next was Little Tion's turn. Little Tion didn't stop at all as she casually drew a lot and gave it to Fatty Hua. Fatty Hua also showed the seal on top of it, and then read, "This lot requires the chef to use noodles as a dish and can be paired with any 4 types of side dishes. However, when the dish is completed, it cannot have the feeling of a main dish." Little Tion smiled faintly. It's simple. He glanced at Nian Bing before walking towards the various materials in the center. The last one was Nian Bing. Arclight walked in front of Nian Bing and revealed a strange smile. He used his unique, gentle voice and said, "Nian Bing, you are currently first. Continue to work hard. And this young man is very handsome and his magic is good. He is a rare talent." Yes. Hearing Arclight's voice, Nian Bing's heart tightened. Thinking about Yin Feng below the stage, she thought to herself, this can't be another chrysanthemum, right? He is one of the grand marshals of the Huarong Empire. While thinking, she hurriedly drew a lot faster than Little Tion and gave it to Hua Fatso. Then, she immediately retreated to the side and tried to keep her distance from Arclight. Hua Fatso opened the lot. When he saw the contents of the lot, he couldn't help but smile strangely. "Nian Bing, maybe it's because you are strong. You have hit the jackpot this time. You actually drew the most difficult lot. But don't worry, we'll add a star to your score according to your final dish." Nian Bing smiled faintly and said, "There's no need for that. I'm confident in my culinary skills. Please announce the content." Hua Fatso chuckled and said, "This lot requires the chef to use utensils to hold the dish. You are not allowed to use any utensils to cook. You can choose any ingredients. Now you can start. The time limit is also 1 hour." Hearing Hua Fatso's words, Nian Bing immediately realized that the lot to add a star was not easy to complete. No wonder he said this was the most difficult lot. To a chef, cooking without using any utensils was almost impossible. How could one cook without utensils? However, this may be difficult for others, but it was not difficult for Nian Bing. After thinking about it, she turned and walked towards the ingredients. The audience below the stage originally thought that Nian Bing had taken advantage of the situation. But when they heard the cooking requirement, they immediately revealed sympathetic expressions. If one cannot cook without utensils, then what was the point of adding a star? In the second carriage behind Yin Feng, there was a light sound of surprise. Obviously, the owner of the carriage also wanted to see how Nian Bing would cook without using utensils. Nian Bing chose 3 ingredients. They were fresh shrimp, crab, and a piece of beef. He did not choose any vegetables. She placed the 3 ingredients on the chopping board and turned her head to look at Little Tion. When she saw Little Tion's actions, she couldn't help but be shocked. Little Tion was kneading the dough. His movements were very slow, but his slow movements were abnormally strong. Looking at his kneading posture, Ling Nian Bing couldn't help but think of Camel Chef Zi Xiu's heavy eagle hand. Is he increasing the strength of the dough? What kind of method is he going to use to cook? Little Tion's actions suddenly changed while Nian Bing was feeling doubtful. He abruptly tossed the dough in his hand into the air. His arms hugged the dough in front of him, and his body rippled like water as he changed into an unusually gentle posture. When the dough landed, it actually floated in the air between his hands. Little Tion pushed his left palm forward while his right palm pulled back. The dough began to spin rapidly. The arrogance on Little Tion's face had disappeared, and he had become unusually calm. His body continued to make all sorts of gentle postures while the dough continued to dance between his hands. A faint yellow dough chi appeared around the dough, but the dough chi did not invade it. Instead, it continued to circulate as Little Tion moved. Nian Bing's eyes widened. His hands, which were about to process his own materials, stopped. He stared unblinkingly at Little Tion's hands. To him, even if he lost this competition, he had to see every single one of Little Tion's actions clearly. This was because he had thought of a technique from Little Tion's actions. It was the yin-yang harmony Taiji hand, which was the best of the 7 great forbidden hands. The Taiji hand was the most mysterious of the 7 forbidden hands. It only appeared in legends. Even Ghost Chef Cha Ji, Nian Bing's master, had never seen it before. He had only read about it in books. However, even though it was just a legend, it was still ranked at the top of the 7 great forbidden hands. According to the legend, there was once a chef who only knew how to make steamed buns. His method of making steamed buns was the Taiji hand. The Taiji hand was not simply a method of processing ingredients. It was a cooking method in itself. When practiced to the extreme, one could even use the technique to cook ingredients. The taste contained within was incomparably strange. It was born from the Taiji hand and was endless. Even the best chefs would not be able to distinguish every taste of the Taiji hand's delicacies. Nian Bing's face revealed a trace of a bitter smile. He knew that he had already lost this competition. No matter how exquisite his magic was, under the premise of not using a few top-notch divine knives, he could not win against the top of the 7 great forbidden hands. However, he did not become dispirited because of this. After all, he was able to see the Taiji hand. To him, this was already a very wonderful thing. Little Tion's expression was still calm. His hands were like his expression. Every movement would make the dough gently rotate. Suddenly, his gentle hands fiercely pulled. A strand of dough flew out from the rapidly rotating dough and evenly spread out on the chopping board in front of him. At this time, the entire rotating platform was only left with the sound of breathing. Those who did not know the goods did not understand. But after all, there were still people who knew the goods. Demon Martial Arc Light at the side muttered to himself, "What is going on? Has the world changed?" A great magician and a martial expert did not join the army, but became a chef. This set of techniques is really good. Using defense as offense, but I can't find a trace of weakness. Other than Nian Bing, the other 9 chefs were busy. Little Tion's movements had already changed. The dough in his hands had completely turned into thin strands. He did not look at Nian Bing, as if he did not feel Nian Bing's gaze, and began the next step of the cooking process. Just when Nian Bing was in a daze, a clear and melodious voice woke him up. "Big brother Nian Bing, do your best." Looking up, on the rostrum, Kitty was excitedly waving at him. Nian Bing clapped his hands. His spirit was instantly lifted. "What is wrong with me? The yin-yang harmony Taiji hand is indeed wonderful, but it is not that I do not have the strength to resist. As long as I do my best, even if I lose, so what? Little Tion, I really did not misjudge you. I really did not expect that the long-lost Taiji hand would appear in your hands. However, I will not admit defeat." Thinking of this, Nian Bing also began to move. He quickly removed the shells of the prawns that he had prepared, used his fingers to remove the prawns, and used the strength of his hands to directly pinch the live crab. He took out the crab roe and crab meat and placed them together with the prawns. Then he placed the beef, prawns, and crab together and began his own actions. After a simple movement of his hands, Nian Bing began to evenly pat the ingredients in front of him. At the beginning, the direction of his palm could be seen clearly, but as the speed increased, only the afterimages of his palm could be seen on the kitchen table. Palm patting, palm cutting, back hitting. Every action appeared from an unimaginable angle. Nian Bing's hands seemed to have no bones, as they freely patted the ingredients in front of him. However, he was able to ensure that the juices of the ingredients did not flow out. This was the bone and tendon separation technique. As his hands moved faster, the 3 ingredients gradually mixed together. Nian Bing did not look at them, but continued to pat the ingredients. He mixed the prawns and crabs into the beef, adding the freshness of the seafood to the beef. Only when half the time had passed did he stop. Taking a deep breath, Nian Bing muttered a few incantations. A huge ice ball with a diameter of more than 3 feet appeared in front of him, followed by surging flames. The flames instantly enveloped the ice ball. The ice ball constantly melted in the flames, but it did not evaporate, as if it was covered by an invisible cover. Gradually, The original ice ball shrank a little, condensing into a water ball in midair. The water in the water ball gradually boiled under the scorching flames. Not allowed to use kitchen utensils? Magic is my kitchen utensils. Nian Bing tossed the ball containing the 3 ingredients into the air. He didn't have the dexterity of 1,000 cut hands to cut the ingredients, but he was able to knead the meat into a ball. The large ball was gradually divided into dozens of meatballs, which directly entered the boiling water ball. They continued to roll around in the water ball. It was amazing. Nian Bing's heart followed the movements of his hands. He focused on the meatballs that were rolling in the water. Suddenly, both of his hands transformed at the same time. He used his spiritual power to control the water ball and quickly added the various seasonings on the chopping board into the meatballs. The water ball followed Nian Bing's thoughts and kept moving, adding the seasonings directly into the meatballs. At this time, Nian Bing controlled the water ball, coming in front of himself. His right hand stretched out, wrapped in flames, rhythmically rotating in the water. This was the mysterious jade hand. Under the effect of the mysterious jade hand, the meatballs were evenly heated, completely soaked in the seasonings. At the last moment, Nian Bing took out his red soul vinegar from the space ring, lightly dripping it, and with a push of his hands, the dozens of meatballs had already entered the prepared large bowl. With the help of ice and fire magic, he finished the dish without using any cooking utensils. At the same time, the 9 chefs who had started cooking before him had also completed their tasks. The judging of the second round was no different from the first round, only the order was changed. Nian Bing did not have anyone in his mind at this time. Only the dish that looked like stir-fried vermicelli in front of little Tian. Vermicelli, that's noodles. What kind of taste would a dish made with Tai Chi hands produce? Little Tian also did not pay attention to the dishes introduced by the others. Once again walking to Nian Bing's side, faintly smiling, and said, "Nian Bing, I admit that I was wrong. I didn't think that magic could be used in cooking like this. Your comprehension in this area is really strong." Nian Bing was also smiling as he looked at him. There was a look of appreciation in their eyes. After all, it was hard to find a worthy opponent. At their level of culinary skills, it was not easy to find a worthy opponent. Unfortunately, I still lost this round. Little Tian, what you used just now, was it the legendary Tai Chi hands of yin-yang harmony? Little Tian smiled, leading the way. Unfortunately, I haven't mastered it yet. Let me tell you a secret. In fact, the Tai Chi hands is the same as the heavy eagle hands. They're a kind of martial branch, divided into different stages. Right now, I still can't use the Tai Chi hands' infinite flavor, but I can use the Tai Chi hands to destroy the composition of any material, transforming it into the flavor I need. You will understand soon. This competition is really exciting. Your first knife against my first hand. Tell me, who do you think will win in the end? Nian Bing said, "Winning or losing is not important to me. Being able to see the legendary Tai Chi hands makes this trip worthwhile. After the competition is over, if there is a chance, I will definitely spar with you more. I think that this definitely won't be our last stage. There is still the God of Cooking competition waiting for us, right?" "Yes." Chapter 90. Little Tian laughed and said, "That's right. There's still the God of Cookery tournament. I think we can both become the new God of Cookery." "Oh, right. I heard that there's a mysterious chef in the Ice Moon Empire. His nickname is Ice and Fire Chef. He seems to also use magic to cook. That's you, right?" Nian Bing nodded and said, "That's right. Since you told me the secret of Tai Chi hand, I have nothing to hide. I'm a magician with the same origin of ice and fire. I'm good at both ice and fire magic. You've also seen that these 2 kinds of magic are most suitable for cooking. Although you have the mysteries of Tai Chi hand, I won't admit defeat so easily. Our competition has a final round. That will be the best time for us to display our full strength." Very quickly, it was Little Tian's turn to explain his dish. Little Tian's explanation was very simple. His dish was called shark's fin. That's right, those noodles were actually made into the flavor of shark's fin. Adding on the supplementary ingredients, no one could detect the smell of the noodles. It was completely the flavor of the highest grade of shark's fin. This discovery immediately shocked everyone. Just like how no one understood how Yin Bing carved a phoenix through the watermelon skin, this time, no one understood how little Tian did it. Fortunately, when he was cooking, everyone was watching, so no one suspected that he was faking it. Finally, it was Nian Bing's turn. Relying on the red soul vinegar and ice and fire magic to cook 3 kinds of ingredients. The tender taste and smooth texture of the top-grade ice and fire pill also won the praise of the judges. She also received extremely high praise. The final results were quickly released. The competition score was still led by Nian Bing and Little Tian. However, this time, Little Tian received 10 stars, while Nian Bing received 9. As for Momo, it was still the same as the first round, receiving 8 stars. Her cooking wasn't bad, but compared to Nian Bing and Little Tian, she was still a bit lacking. We've once again witnessed the miraculous cooking skills of top-grade chefs. This time, although Chef Little Tian received the first place with 10 stars, it was much harder than before. However, since Nian Bing's drawing of lots is more difficult, we will give him 1 more star. Similarly, he will get full marks of 10 stars. Hua Fatso announced happily. The quality of his competition was obviously much better than the previous ones, especially the appearance of Nian Bing and Little Tian. All of them brought him great shock. Wait a minute. Nian Bing suddenly spoke up to stop Hua Fatso from continuing. Hua Fatso was stunned for a moment before he said, Chef Nian Bing, do you have any other opinions? Although it was very difficult for you to draw the lot, it was decided after we coordinated with many parties, so we can only give you this score. Nian Bing smiled and said, Boss Hua, I don't think the result is unfair to me, but it is unfair to Chef Lil Tian. I have indeed lost this competition. Please cancel your decision to give me 1 more star. I will have 9 stars. How about this? Chef Xiao Tian and I have the same parts. Let the final match decide the winner between us. What do you think? As the organizer of the competition, Hua Fatso naturally hoped that the competition would become more exciting. When he heard Nian Bing's words, he was immediately overjoyed and praised. Chef Nian Bing, you are really noble. All right, we will do as you say. The final match would determine the result of this Jiehua long culinary challenge. All right, the second round of the competition ends here. Tonight, when the sun sets, we will begin the final round of the competition. Nian Bing and Little Tian looked at each other and smiled. They walked down the stage together. Little Tian stretched and laughed. I am really tired. Nian Bing, do you know that using the yin-yang harmony Tai Chi hand is very exhausting? I don't know if I can use it again tonight. Nian Bing smiled and said, I hope you can use it. I still want to see it a few more times. Unfortunately, I don't cultivate battle chi. Otherwise, I would definitely pester you to learn this unique skill. Hearing Nian Bing say this, Little Tian's eyes suddenly lit up. He laughed and said, Are you teaching me? Although you can't learn my Tai Chi hand, I can learn your precious knife skills. After the competition, wait for me to pester you. After saying this, he couldn't help but laugh. Nian Bing. A cold voice sounded not far away. Nian Bing turned around and saw Yin Feng standing in the distance looking at her. Although his voice was cold, the expression on his face was very gentle. We meet again. Let's find a place to talk, okay? Little Tian looked at Yin Feng and probed Nian Bing. Your friend? Nian Bing nodded. Although she didn't like Yin Feng's sexual orientation, Yin Feng had helped her before and didn't do any harm to her. How could she deny it? You go rest first. I'll go talk with my friend. After saying this, she quickly walked towards Yin Feng. Seeing Yin Bing come to her side, Yin Feng couldn't help but smile even more. When the two of them walked out of the chef's resting area, he impatiently said, Nian Bing, long time no see. How have you been? I'm really sorry about last time. Father was in too much of a hurry to return to the capital and didn't have time to tell you. Nian Bing smiled and shook her head. It's fine. After all, your identity is different. Yin Feng sighed softly and said, You already know my identity, right? Sigh, this time, Father called me back to the capital because of the matter of the heir to the throne. Including me, Father has 7 sons. In theory, all 7 of us have the right to inherit the throne. Father's wife is already old. In order to avoid unnecessary conflicts in the future, We have to choose the heir as soon as possible. That's why I returned to the capital. Father originally wanted fifth brother to inherit the throne, but my mother, the Empress of the Ice Moon Empire, strongly opposed it. Mother gave birth to two sons for father. One is my eldest brother, and the other is me. Eldest brother is the eldest son. Although he isn't as capable as fifth brother, he didn't make any big mistakes. With the support of mother and her family, it made father very difficult. Until now, the heir hasn't been decided. Being involved in this kind of power struggle is a painful thing. I finally found an excuse to leave the capital. I didn't expect to meet you here. Hearing Yin Feng's narration, Nian Bing could clearly feel the sorrow in his heart. Being born in the royal family wasn't necessarily a lucky thing. In front of power, family was no longer important. He once had the same feeling. He couldn't help but sigh. Clear music stays in the secular world. When disputes end, whoever can break through fame and fortune will roam freely in the void. Yin Feng's entire body shook. Brother, you're right. What a good. Whoever can break through fame and fortune will roam freely in the void. You're right. Anyway, I have no interest in power. If they want to fight, then let them. I just want to be a free and unfettered king. Brother, after I'm done with these troubles, how about we travel the continent together? Nian Bing's facial muscles twitched a bit awkwardly. She changed the topic. Brother Yin, why did you come to the Huarong Empire this time? Although the Huarong Empire doesn't have any intention of invading the Ice Moon Empire, their relationship isn't that harmonious. As a prince, you personally came to the Huarong Empire. Aren't you afraid that they'll harm you? Yin Feng smiled and said gratefully, Brother, I'm afraid I'm not here to represent the Ice Moon Empire. I'm here to escort the contestants representing the Empire to participate in the Five Nations New Magician competition. Didn't you see those carriages just now? Nian Bing's heart skipped a beat. That's right. Long Ji once said that each nation would send 2 contestants to participate in the New Magician competition. She was one of the contestants from the Ice Moon Empire. The other contestant was naturally sent by the Ice God Tower. Yin Feng came this time to escort the contestant from the Ice God Tower. Then it seemed that the one who collided with her spiritual energy before should be that person. Brother Yin, I saw those carriages. Who did the Ice God Tower send this time? Yin Feng could be said to tell Nian Bing everything he knew. The New Magician competition has been going for many years. It's the best place for the 5 empires to compete. The champion not only wins glory, but also a deterrent to the other empires. For the 5 empires, this competition is very important. Since the first competition, the Ice Moon Empire and the Huarong Empire have won the most championships. In the last competition, we were careless and let Huarong win. This time, we must win back. I'm very confident about this. In order to win this competition, my father personally went to the Ice God Tower to ask the Ice Goddess Priestess to send the strongest disciple. The Ice Goddess Priestess appreciated my father's sincerity and sent the most outstanding new generation of the Ice God Tower, Miss Bing Yun. Miss Bing Yun has also gradually shown her talent in the past few years, but she has already received the title of Thousand Illusions. Her ice magic is ever-changing and hard to defend against. Qianhuan Bingyun. Nian Bing murmured this name. According to Long Ji, the contestants who participated in the New Magician competition couldn't be older than 25 years old. From the exchange of spiritual energy between her and her strength wasn't below hers. She had reached the Archmage realm at such a young age. No wonder Yin Feng was so confident. Yin Feng was very excited to see Nian Bing again. Yes, it's Qianhuan Bingyun. Her name is completely different from her person, especially her personality. This is the first time I've seen such a cold woman. That's good. I hate those who keep pestering me. Nian Bing, you're also a magician. You should learn more from Miss Bingyun. Sigh. It's a pity that father insisted on giving the Empire's Magicians Guild a place to participate in the competition. Otherwise, as long as the Ice God Tower sent out 2 contestants, wouldn't the champion of the New Magician competition belong to us? Nian Bing smiled bitterly in her heart. Yin Feng, I'm afraid you didn't expect that the other contestant you thought was a loser was standing in front of you. Just as Nian Bing was thinking about how to get rid of Yin Feng, a soft voice sounded. Chef Nian Bing, what are you doing here instead of resting and preparing for the last competition? Without looking, Nian Bing knew who it was. She suddenly felt a little funny. If this magician Arclight really had that kind of hobby, then he and Yin Feng would be a couple. One was Bei Juhua from the extreme North Ice Moon Empire, and the other was the famous magician Nan Juhua from the Huarong Empire. Hello, Magician Arclight. This is a friend of mine who came from afar. I'll chat with him for a while before going to rest. Hearing the name Arclight, Yin Feng's attention was immediately attracted. Cold light flashed in his eyes as he said indifferently, "You're the magician Arclight? Recently, you guys from the Huarong Empire seem to be very active." Arclight also saw Yin Feng, and his eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "The seventh prince came to my territory first after coming to the Huarong Empire." This really makes Arclight excited. The seventh prince is even more handsome than the rumors say, but he seems a little cold. Yin Feng frowned slightly as he looked at the magician who was no less handsome than Yin Bing, but had a feminine aura between his eyebrows. He kept thinking about the opponent's strength. Since he dared to come here, he wasn't afraid of being recognized. However, he didn't expect to meet the leader of the Huarong Empire's Northeast Army so soon. I've heard of the magician's great name. According to the rumors, you seem to be the youngest swordsman in the Huarong Empire. A few years ago, when I was lucky enough to meet the Ice Goddess Priestess, she mentioned you. It said that you actually lasted for a while before being defeated by the Ice Goddess Priestess. I really admire you. Although Yin Feng said it very calmly, his tone was no longer polite. Looking at the sparks created by the collision of the two big chrysanthemums of the north and south, Nian Bing complained in her heart. God, being sandwiched between two men with special inclinations was definitely not a pleasant thing. Arclight smiled, and his eyes became even gentler. He looked at Yin Feng from head to toe. "Young man, you should watch your words. I'll visit the Ice Goddess Priestess again sooner or later. However, she doesn't seem to be young anymore." Yin Feng snorted and said, "The Ice Goddess Priestess lives as long as heaven and earth. No matter how old she is, she will always be the pillar of the Ice Moon Empire. I don't think there's anything to talk about between us. Nian Bing, let's go outside and talk." After saying that, he reached out to pull Nian Bing. Nian Bing reacted very quickly and dodged Yin Feng's pull without leaving a trace. She followed him outside. It was always better to have one less chrysanthemum blooming next to her. Squeezing into the crowd, Nian Bing had already put on his bamboo hat. The people in the square were already very enthusiastic, and he didn't want to become the center of attention. Yin Feng's body emitted a faint white light. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to tell. However, Nian Bing, who was familiar with all kinds of elements, could clearly feel that his duki was of the light attribute. Although there were many people in the square, wherever the two passed, the crowd would be slightly pushed aside by their duki, just enough for them to pass through. Seeing the three carriages getting closer and closer, the flames of hatred in Yin Bing's heart continued to burn. His heart was contracting. Ice God Tower, the Ice God Tower that made him lose his beautiful childhood, the Ice God Tower that made him lose his beloved parents. One day, he would personally destroy you. The surroundings became lighter, and the two had already squeezed out of the crowd. Yin Feng ordered his subordinates and led Nian Bing to a quieter tree at the side of the square. When Nian Bing passed by the three carriages, he intentionally glanced at the second carriage. Although the curtains were down, the coldness was still there, as if the carriage was a huge block of ice. Nian Bing's eyes emitted a faint cold light. "Qinhuan Bingyun, we will definitely fight soon. My revenge against the Ice God Tower will start with defeating you." Humiliating the Ice God Tower was definitely something he wanted to do the most. "Nian Bing, why did you come here to participate in the cooking competition?" Yin Feng's voice had already become gentle again. Nian Bing smiled faintly. His gaze was still fixed on the carriage in the center as he said, "Ice Snow City is good, but that's not my home. I promised the master who taught me culinary skills that I would travel across the continent and bring glory to my culinary skills. I would become the best chef on the continent. That's why I came here to participate in the competition. Only by meeting more culinary experts can I improve my skills even more. Yin Feng's eyes revealed a yearning expression. I really envy you. If only I could be like you and fly freely in the sky. How good would that be? To be able to travel to every corner of the continent has always been my wish. Feeling Yin Feng's loneliness, Nian Bing turned to look at him, patted his shoulder, and said, "Don't think so much. Everything will be in the past. Everything is not that important. You have your difficulties, and I also have my difficulties. No one can always have a smooth sailing life. Look on the bright side. Just like you said, isn't it good to be a free and unfettered prince?" Yin Feng laughed. He said, "Yes, free and unfettered prince. When father officially determines the heir to the throne, I will be able to regain my freedom. At that time, I will definitely find you again." At this time, a knight quickly walked in front of Yin Feng and said respectfully, "Your Highness, there are less people in the square now. We can go now." A trace of reluctance flashed in Yin Feng's eyes. Nian Bing smiled and said, "Stay with us. We can talk more." Nian Bing shook her head. She said, "No, I won't go first. I still have a competition tonight, and it won't start for a while. I want to go back to my place and rest for a while." Nian Bing reached out her right hand. "Good luck. You will definitely win. I will watch your competition tonight." Although Nian Bing was unwilling, she still shook his right hand. "Thank you. No matter if I win or lose, I will do my best." After seeing the Tai Chi hand of Yin and Yang in the small world, he was not absolutely sure. As he watched Yin Feng and the three carriages disappear into the distance, Nian Bing realized that he didn't hate Yin Feng as much as before. Although he was a prince, he wasn't happy. His identity as a prince brought him too many restrictions and responsibilities. Other than his sexual orientation, Yin Feng was a friend that he could make. At this moment, Nian Bing's rejection of Yin Feng was gradually disappearing. Looking at the gradually dispersing crowd, Nian Bing turned around and walked back to her hotel. She would go back and rest for a while. When the competition was at night, a quiet environment would be more suitable for her meditation. When she was about to go back to the hotel, Nian Bing suddenly heard a voice. "Nian Bing, I have something to tell you. Come with me." When she looked back, she saw Hillard standing not far away and nodding to her. Hillard then turned and walked out of the Teru Square. In a short moment, Nian Bing did not see anything from Hillard's face. What could he want from her? She quickly followed Hillard. The two of them, one in front and one behind, walked into the depths of Teru City. After turning into a quiet alley, Hillard stopped. Nian Bing walked behind him and stopped about 3 meters away. "Senior, why are you looking for me?" Hillard slowly turned around. Nian Bing felt a trace of coldness from him. "Nian Bing, among the humans, you are indeed very outstanding. At such a young age, you are not only a great magician, but also an excellent chef. Coupled with your handsome appearance, it is easy to give people a good impression. But do you know, these benefits of yours have brought you a fatal disaster." Hillard shook his right hand, and the bracelet on his wrist emitted a faint silver light. A scroll jumped into his hand. "You will understand soon." Before Nian Bing could react, he had already opened the scroll. The silver light formed a huge light shield that completely enveloped him and Nian Bing. Everything around them was instantly enveloped by the silver light. Nian Bing realized that this was a teleportation scroll. Judging from the magic fluctuation, it should not exceed the 7th level. It was a short-distance teleportation scroll. What was Hillard doing? From his tone, could it be that he wanted to kill her? There was a flash of silver light, and when Nian Bing saw the scenery in front of him again, he and Hillard were already in a valley surrounded by mountains. As far as the eye could see, the entire valley was shrouded in a layer of gray aura. Hillard did not seem to know where his teleportation scroll had teleported them to. As soon as he appeared, he immediately took a careful look at everything around him. "Senior, you used a non-positioning mid-distance teleportation scroll. This should be a 6th level spatial magic. If it is a positioning teleportation, it can reach the 8th level. Hillard stopped observing and smiled indifferently. You should know why I brought you here. Do you want it in your own life, or do you want me to do it? This place is sparsely populated, so it's not a bad place to bury your bones. Don't worry, I'll leave your corpse intact. It is a pity that you are such a good cook. If you have any funeral arrangements, there is still time to tell me. I will do my best to arrange them for you. Nian Bing looked at Hillard calmly. It is because of Kitty. Senior, from the first time we met, you seem to be very worried about Kitty, as if you were afraid that something would happen between her and me. In fact, I have always treated her as a cute little sister. Of course, you cannot believe my words, but think about it carefully. Even if I die, in the future, as long as Kitty is in contact with ordinary people, she will meet someone she likes. She will meet handsome men. Do you want to kill all the men that Kitty meets? Hillard snorted coldly. You don't have to say anything. The mantle of the dragon summoner must be inherited by Kitty. She is my only daughter. Even if I kill all the men in the world for her, I will not hesitate. I have never thought of myself as a kind person. Humans have always been good at using unscrupulous means to achieve their goals. Although I am white, I am still human. If you don't have any last words, then take your own life. Of course, you can also choose to resist. However, I want to remind you that dying in a spiritual magic is an extremely painful thing. From Hillard's eyes, Nian Bing could see his contempt for her. Indeed, he was a dragon summoner with a powerful spiritual power at the level of a super magus. Coupled with his strange spiritual magic, it was impossible for her to deal with him. However, that wind dragon called Karadiris could easily destroy her. At this moment, Nian Bing could not help but think of Garamandes. If he was by her side, such a threat would not appear. Thinking about it was just thinking, but she still had to face reality. Although she did not want to fight with Hillard, the murderous intent in Hillard's eyes clearly told her that all this was real and not an act. You want to kill me? Hillard, I am no longer the Nian Bing of half a year ago. Nian Bing smiled. Senior, before I die, I only have one wish. I don't know if you can agree to it. Hillard nodded and said, Say it, as long as I can do it. From the bottom of his heart, he still admired Nian Bing very much. A young magus with the same origin of ice and fire, her future was limitless. Nian Bing said, You're a senior, and so am I. I think that even if I die, I'm willing to die under your magic, no matter how painful it is. Therefore, I want to fight you. However, you're my senior. Before we fight, can you let me draw a magic array? That way, I might be able to last a little longer. Magic array? Hillard looked at Nian Bing with some confusion. From Nian Bing's eyes, he could not see anything. Nian Bing, do you know how to draw magic arrays? That seems to be the specialty of spatial magi. Nian Bing smiled and said, I've always liked magic arrays. Later on, I received some guidance from a teacher and gained some basic understanding of magic arrays. I wonder if you can give me some time to study them? Hillard smiled indifferently and said, Go ahead and draw. I'll give you the time of a meal. However, you don't have to try to escape. Even if you have a spatial magic scroll on you, it will be useless. This is because within a radius of 1,000 feet, I've completely sealed it off. Without my consent, any teleportation magic will be completely ineffective. Nian Bing smiled bitterly and said, Senior, do you think I am someone who has a spatial magic scroll? Spatial magic scrolls are the most precious among all magic scrolls, especially those with teleportation abilities. They are treasures that can save lives. Nian Bing indeed did not have one. Ever since he obtained the 4-star sword, he had tried to make a spatial magic scroll more than once. However, in the end, he always failed. He did not know why, but he always felt that something was missing when he was making the scrolls. Perhaps it was because he made them with mimicry magic. Facing a strong enemy in front of him, Nian Bing secretly swore that if he could escape this disaster, he would definitely make a spatial magic scroll in the future. Without wasting any time, as soon as Hillard agreed to let him draw the magic array, Nian Bing suppressed the excitement in his heart. He held the sigh of the snow goddess and the roar of the fire god in his hands. The red and blue light of the two swords flashed at the same time, quickly drawing a complicated pattern on the ground. At first, Hillard did not pay much attention to it, but as Nian Bing's hands moved so fast that they became a two-colored phantom, it attracted Hillard's attention. As a dragon summoner, he naturally had a certain amount of research on magic arrays. The more complex a magic array was, the more powerful it could be. Looking at Nian Bing's cumbersome movements and the magic array that was constantly taking shape on the ground, he had a faint feeling of uneasiness in his heart. This magic array looked simple and did not seem to be an ordinary magic array. Moreover, it was so complicated to draw. What kind of function did it have? As the uneasiness gradually increased, Hillard was surprised to find that Nian Bing's body was emitting a faint layer of mist. His forehead was covered with sweat. Obviously, he had consumed a lot of mental strength because of this magic array. Seeing this, Hillard's heart calmed down. In his mind, Nian Bing was just a mage after all. Even if he exhausted his mental strength, the magic array he drew would not pose too much of a threat to him. Moreover, it was obviously not a teleportation magic array. It should only be used to increase the offensive power. This fellow was really overestimating himself. Even if his offensive power had increased, what use would it be if he did not have good control over it? In the blink of an eye, two magic arrays had appeared on the ground, one positive and one negative. The lines of the positive magic array were similar to those of ordinary magic arrays. It was engraved with the roar of the god of fire, and it was red in color. As for the anti-magic array, when it was drawn, it was not outlined from the edges, but from the small symbols inside. When the positive magic array was completed, the anti-magic array was also completed. With a slight smile, Nian Bing's eyes revealed a faint cold light. That was the fusion of red and blue magic array. Feeling the oppressive aura of the magic array, he knew that he was close to the edge of success. He held the hilts of the two magic swords in both hands and gathered them in front of his chest. In a low voice, he chanted, "Ice, you are the representation of cold. Fire, you are the source of burning heat. The aura of ice and fire. Please allow me to fuse your characteristics. With your common source as a guide, resonate." Chapter 91. The stone of the ice goddess and the stone of the god of fire emitted a dazzling light at the same time, and the magic circle seemed to be activated. A ball of red and blue intertwined light rose from the center of the circle, and the light kept flickering. Suddenly, the world around them seemed to have changed. The red and blue disappeared at the same time, and everything became faint. Nian Bing and Hillard shook at the same time. They each covered their heads and fell to the ground with a pained expression on their faces. The magic circle on the ground had turned into a light purple color, and every magic symbol in it was slowly rotating around the magic circle. The world in the eyes of Nian Bing and Hillard had turned completely purple. Everything was so real, yet so illusory. Nian Bing was constantly panting, and big drops of sweat fell down. Although he was in extreme pain, there was a smile on his face. It was a happy smile. Even the dragon summoner was tricked by him. So how could he not be excited? The magic in his body was still there, but his mental strength had been completely extracted. He could only rely on his basic consciousness to control his body. For a magician, losing mental strength meant losing control of magic. If he chanted a spell without permission, it was very likely that his magic would backfire on him. However, these are not important to Nian Bing. He had already achieved what he wanted to achieve. Looking at Hillard, who was in more pain than himself, Nian Bing forced a smile. He forced himself to calm down and stood up while enduring the weakness. "You didn't expect this, did you, Senior Hillard? I think you certainly didn't expect me to use such a magic circle to deal with you. In fact, when I was drawing this magic circle, even I wasn't sure if it would succeed." Previously, the moment the magic circle burst forth with power, Hillard had already realized that something was wrong, but it was too late to react. A needle-like feeling instantly entered his brain, and the powerful mental strength that he had always been proud of was flowing out like lightning. His control of his mental strength was completely gone, and his brain was in severe pain. He fell to the ground. At this time, listening to Nian Bing's words, he had recovered some of his consciousness, but it was not that his strength had recovered. Instead, it was because his mental power had almost completely disappeared. His brain no longer hurt, and a strong sense of dizziness kept attacking him. Hillard was very regretful. He had never thought that he would be pecked in the eye by a swallow today after fighting swallows all day long. Huajia also stood up and looked at the magic array with purple light. His body trembled. Is this the legendary restriction array? Nian Bing smiled faintly. He said, Senior, you didn't expect this, right? Actually, this formation isn't very useful. It can only suppress the mental strength of the sentries within a radius of 3,000 feet. As long as they walk out of this range, they will naturally recover. It's a formation that suppresses the strength of a magician. However, the biggest advantage of this formation is to deal with white people like you. White people don't have magic, and the mental magic that you are good at is completely transformed from your mental strength. Under the effect of this magic circle, I'm afraid that your powerful mental magic can no longer be used. Even summoning requires a mental connection. Without your mental strength, even if you're a powerful dragon summoner, you are now no different from an ordinary person. Am I right? Hillard resisted the discomfort of his body and snorted. Yes, I am no different from an ordinary person, but you also said that as long as I walk out of the range of 3,000 feet, my mental strength can be restored. This magic circle restricts my magic, and it also restricts yours. I don't believe that you dare to use magic now. Without the control of your mental strength, I'm afraid that when the time comes, I won't be the one to die. Nian Bing smiled. Yes, Senior, you are right. I really don't dare to use magic now. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, we will die together. Senior Hillard, I've always been kind and respectful, but I didn't expect that you would want to kill me for your own selfish reasons. Originally, I shouldn't have made things difficult for you for Kitty's sake, but I don't want to be hunted down by a powerful summoner who can summon dragons in the future. After all, good luck doesn't come easily. Senior, you lost today because you were kind to me after you wanted to kill me. We don't have any magic left, so I think it's time for us to start eating meat. I wonder how long you can last under my sword. You should remember that I am a chef. As a chef, my physical strength is much stronger than ordinary magicians. Nian Bing raised the sigh of the snow goddess and the roar of the fire god. She walked toward Hillard step by step. At this moment, her heart was filled with killing intent. Although Hillard was Kitty's father, if she didn't kill him, he would definitely be killed by him. In order to survive, killing Hillard was the only choice. Feeling the aura of the two divine blades, Hillard's face became more and more unpleasant. Indeed, for a summoner, the most terrible thing was that their mental strength was limited. However, magic that could limit mental strength did not exist at all. Only the forbidden magic circle in the legends could do it. In the face of this guy, who was only a supreme magician who could draw such a lost magic circle, he was the public enemy of all white people. As long as he existed, white summoners would be completely restricted. But now, how could Hillard resist? The loss of a large amount of mental strength caused him to suffer much more than Nian Bing. When Nian Bing was drawing the magic array, he had already used up a lot of mental strength, so the loss of mental strength did not cause too much of a burden to him. However, it was different for Hillard. As a summoner, mental strength was his lifeline. Regardless of whether it was summoning spells or essence magic, mental strength was the foundation of all spells. Nian Bing smiled slightly and suddenly stopped. Senior, I think that if you don't know the name of this magic circle before you die, even if you go to hell, you will regret it very much. This magic formation is an ancient magic formation that I accidentally found in an ancient book. When I saw this magic formation, it was already incomplete. The only thing missing was the most crucial part to activate it. In order to research how to activate this magic formation, I devised countless theories. In the end, I discovered that this magic formation requires the magic elements to be in a state of equilibrium to activate. My ice and fire affinity just happens to be able to reach that level. However, this magic circle attracted me only because of its complexity and characteristics. I did not expect to use it. After all, limiting mental strength is not good for me. However, When you were about to kill me just now, I suddenly thought of it. Isn't this magic circle the nemesis of summoner like you? As long as you step into this magical area before casting your summoning spell, everything will become easier. You must remember to ask for Chu Li's help. Remember, this magic circle's name is Eternal Sleep. It means eternal sleep. Senior, don't worry. I will do my best to take care of Kitty. There is one thing that I want to reiterate. I do not have the kind of feelings that you think I have for Kitty. I really only see her as a little sister. As he said this, he raised the sword in his hand. Wait a minute. Hillard suddenly shouted. His weak body wanted to dodge backwards, but because of his weak mental strength, he could not use his strength. His physical condition was indeed much worse than Nianbing's. Nianbing looked at Hillard. He was not in a hurry now. After all, he did not want to go back to Talus City after killing Hillard, because he did not know how to face Kitty. After all, he had lost a family, so he naturally knew the pain of losing a father. However, the situation now forced him to do this. If he did not kill, he would be killed. It was a simple choice. There was no need to think too much about it. Seeing that Nianbing had stopped moving, Hillard smiled bitterly and said, Kid, you are smarter than I thought. You are also more scheming. Magic is indeed different from martial arts. Under special circumstances, even the strongest magician will feel pain. However, this magic formation of yours is not without its flaws. I think its range of control is not as big as you said. Moreover, if I were a mage like you, I could use my powerful magic to charge out of this magic formation. Once you reach the realm of a magician, even if you don't have any mental strength, it's not like you can't control magic. From a certain point of view, this magic formation of yours can completely deal with us summoners. To be honest, I don't want to die. I have a wife and a daughter that I love. If you let me go now, I can swear that I will not hurt you. Not now. Not in the future. How about it? When the crisis of life was over, Hillard bowed his head. He was not a person who was afraid of death, but he did not want his wife to lose her husband and his daughter to be fatherless. When he thought of his wife and daughter's sad faces, he had no choice but to bow his head to Nianbing. As a proud dragon summoner, this was the first time in his life that Hillard admitted defeat. Nianbing was stunned. Hillard was indeed a powerful magician. He was right. The distance of 10,000 feet that she mentioned was just a joke. With her current magic of the same origin of ice and fire, she could not support such a long distance. The magic circle could only control a radius of a few hundred feet. Moreover, the drawbacks that Hillard pointed out were also very good. Long Ji once told Nianbing that this magic circle was completely ineffective against magicians above the level of a magician. This was because, after reaching the level of a magician, although they could not completely control magic after losing their mental strength, they could still control the direction of magic. As long as the magic circle was destroyed or all the enemies were killed, everything would be meaningless. If not for this, Nianbing would have used this magic circle to find a priest of the ice goddess. Senior, on what basis do you want me to believe your words? Even if you're a trustworthy person, the One You game is very easy to play. You only said that you won't kill me, but you didn't say that your people and pets won't kill me. As a powerful summoner, you have too many ways to deal with me. I'm only one person, a little magician and a little chef. I can't take the risk. Nianbing looked at Hillard. In a situation where Hillard was not a threat, she spoke her mind. For the sake of her own life, the best way was to silence Hillard. After all, when she and Hillard left, no one saw them. As long as she killed Hillard and left Talus City, even if the sentries suspected her, there would be no evidence. Hillard said angrily, "Are you questioning my words? Who am I? Why would I do such a despicable thing?" Nianbing said calmly, "As the saying goes, the world is unpredictable. In the past, I risked my life to save Kitty. But today, aren't you going to kill me? You can change your mind very quickly, but I don't want to treat my life as a game. How about this? You swear that you will not use any means to take revenge on me or hurt me as long as you are alive. Otherwise, the white race will be completely destroyed. Only then can I believe you." For Caucasians like summoners, it was useless to make them swear an oath of divine retribution before leaving. They hated the heavens, and Hillard's Achilles' heel was his people. Hillard's face changed. Nianbing, you are so cruel. Fine, 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 I swear. But you have to be careful. A person who is too despicable will not end well. Nianbing smiled faintly and said, I don't think I'm despicable in any way. I'm just trying to protect myself better. Is that wrong? I need to say something. I still have a lot to do. Senior, I still want to go back to Tala City to participate in the last competition. Please hurry up and swear. He smiled. At this time, his heart became lighter. Not killing Hillard was naturally the best choice. Hillard snorted hatefully, pointed one finger to the sky, and said in a deep voice, I, Hillard, swear that if Nianbing does not hurt me today, I will not use any means to hurt him in my lifetime. If I violate this oath, let the white race disappear from history. In the process of swearing, his voice was trembling. It was obvious that the anger in his heart had reached the extreme. Nianbing felt a burst of pride in her heart. To be able to force a dragon summoner to swear not to hurt him, she was afraid that no one had ever done it before. Just as he was about to remove the magic array, a sudden change occurred. The valley shook violently, and the rumbling sound continued. The purple magic array emitted a purple light. In an instant, the whole valley was shrouded in purple. This time, the power of the magic array really spread to a distance of 10,000 feet. However, it only lasted for a moment. Just as Nianbing and Hillard felt that their spiritual power had begun to recover due to the disappearance of the magic array, the ground suddenly split open. A huge crack ran through the whole valley, and a black and gray aura rose to the sky. Waves of cold, evil spread out. Nianbing instinctively pounced on Hillard, grabbed him, and pulled him aside, just in time to avoid a crack that spread out from behind Hillard. Before the two of them could celebrate, there was a loud bang. In a violent tremor, they could no longer control their bodies and tumbled in the air toward the bottomless abyss. In the process of falling, Nianbing clasped Hillard's arm tightly, put the two swords into the ring, and summoned his Xuanji sword with the spiritual power that had just recovered. Darkness swallowed Nianbing and Hillard's figures. The black fog was full of coldness. The valley, which had few living creatures, had now become a land of death. Whether it was plants or animals, they had all gradually melted in the black fog. The Death Valley gradually formed, and there seemed to be countless mournful howls spiraling in the valley. It was an unusually cold, evil power, an incomparably huge, evil aura. Taru City. Kitty was sitting on the rostrum, bored, and eating the food sent by the staff. As she ate, she muttered discontentedly, Why isn't Daddy back yet? Didn't he say that he was going to walk around and stretch his body and will be back soon? Where did Big Brother Nianbing go? He was still here just now. He should be resting. The competition is about to start. Kitty, eat less. If you eat more, you'll become a little fat kitty. Arclight's playful voice suddenly sounded. Kitty looked up at the handsome devil marshal and snorted, Little broken snake, you're the fat one. I'm a beautiful girl, Kitty. Is there anyone with a more perfect figure than me? Umph. If you say that my figure is not good, I'll let Daddy teach you a lesson. I heard that you like to be attacked by spiritual magic. Hee. These days, besides the competition, I'm so bored. Little broken snake, I want to go to your barracks to play. Can you take me there? Looking at Kitty's malicious eyes, Arclight broke out in cold sweat. He would rather rush into the Fey army than become enemies with this girl Kitty. This little witch really gave him a headache. No need. Kitty, Uncle will take you to other places to play some other day. There are many fun places in Taru City. Tonight's competition will be more exciting than the one during the day. The final winner will be decided. Moreover, that boy called Nianbing is a magician. Cooking with magic, the night will be even more gorgeous. Sure enough, at the mention of Nianbing, Kitty's attention was immediately diverted. A smile appeared on her pretty face. Yes, Big Brother Nianbing is the best at cooking. Today, he will definitely be the champion. At this time, in a corner of Taru Square, the vampire Ping Chao and his little master Yu were eating the food they had just bought from Hualong Restaurant. While eating, Yu said with dissatisfaction, Big Brother Ping Chow. Why can't we eat this? I want to eat the food made by the chefs on the round platform. The food they make is very special. It will definitely be delicious, right? Ping Chow whispered, You, don't make trouble. We should go back. Otherwise, if Moon Lord blames us, I won't be able to afford it. Suddenly, Ping Chow's whole body shook. He looked into the distance, and his eyes flashed with blood. His body slightly convulsed because of excitement. This is the aura of our clansman. Little master, this is the aura of our clansman. Yu was stunned for a moment and said, Our clansmen? You mean those powerful existences who are wandering outside? Didn't Father say that they were all sealed at that time? No. Although Ping Chow tried his best to lower his voice, the excitement in his heart was hard to conceal. Little master, you don't know. After the war, although the vast majority of people were sealed, there were still some powerful and clever clansmen who escaped the ultimate seal. Although they were sealed to a certain extent, the seal was not firm and could be removed under certain circumstances. Just like Sir Moonlord, who is one of the magicians, Sir has always been looking for these low-level sealed clansmen. Only by gathering more power can we succeed. Yu, let's go take a look. I can already feel that the aura is getting stronger and stronger. If we can contact these people who have removed the seal, it will definitely be a great contribution. Our strength will also be greatly enhanced. Yu stuffed the snack in her mouth and said, Then what are we waiting for? Let's go take a look. I just don't know which clan they are from. It will be best if they are from the same clan as me. The two quietly slipped out of the crowd. After a while, they disappeared from the Taru Square. Not long after, a black shadow rose into the sky and flew towards the distance. The sky gradually darkened. The Taru Square was once again filled with people. As the final round of the finals, the people's emotions had reached the highest point. All the chefs who participated in the finals slowly stepped onto the rotating round table. Little Tian looked around, but he couldn't see Nian Bing's figure. He frowned and thought in his heart, Where did Nian Bing go? He will never be afraid of fighting. But the competition is about to start. Why hasn't he come yet? If Nian Bing didn't come, the magician would undoubtedly be the champion. However, Little Tian didn't want to win the championship in this way. He very much wanted to have the final duel with Nian Bing. He wanted to win with his own ability. Time passed by minute. Fatso Hua was also waiting for the final duel. He had deliberately delayed the duel, but Nian Bing still didn't appear. Helpless, he could only announce that Nian Bing had given up on the final round. The competition officially began. Without Nian Bing's presence, Little Tian was not interested in the competition. However, with his culinary skills and the advantages he had accumulated in the previous 2 rounds, he easily became the champion of the Hua Long Culinary Challenge. Momo was also an 8-star chef in 3 rounds, and she was the runner-up. Another outstanding chef replaced Nian Bing's position and unexpectedly obtained the 3rd place. The prize money and the certificate to participate in the God of Cooking competition were quickly handled by the contestants. The Hua Long cooking competition that lasted for 3 days finally ended. The celebration in Taru City also drew an imperfect end. Everything returned to normal. The next Hua Long cooking competition would be held 3 years later. Little Tian walked down from the rotating round table and angrily slammed his hands on it. He roared to himself, Nian Bing, why didn't you come? What does this kind of championship mean to me? Don't be angry. Momo's gentle voice rang out from behind Little Tian. She walked to his side and held his large, fair hand. There must be a reason why Nian Bing didn't come. Perhaps something happened to him. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have not come. However, although you didn't have the chance to fight with him, there will be chances in the future. After all, there is still the God of Cooking competition, right? If Nian Bing saw how intimate Momo and Lil Tian were, he would definitely be shocked. Lil Tian looked at Momo, and the anger in his eyes subsided a little. Forget it. The competition is over anyway. There's no point in saying anything more. I hope to see him at the God of Cookery competition. Before you defeat him, you won't be the #1 chef in the younger generation. Momo, in a few days, I want to stay in the green bamboo forest for a while. Can you follow me there? Master once said that the toughness of bamboo is the most suitable for practicing Tai Chi hands. I want to practice Tai Chi hands to a higher realm before I meet Nian Bing. Momo's gentle face blushed. She nodded lightly and said, "Wherever you go, I will be there. Let's go. Let's go and say goodbye to the elders. Then we will set off." Little Tian nodded. She gazed into the distant horizon and sighed softly. "Nian Bing, you're the greatest opponent I've faced since I started cultivating. You're also the opponent I desire to fight the most. I hope nothing happens to you. Let's meet soon." After saying that, he looked at his hands that were more beautiful than a woman's. His eyes flashed, and a faint yellow aura flashed. Darkness. The surroundings were completely dark. He clenched his teeth and endured the pain in his body. Nian Bing was trying to sit up straight, but the sudden violent tremors from the ground made him and Hillard unable to resist at all. Although the eternal sleep magic array helped him to restrain Hillard, it also caused their mental strength to reach the lowest point. In the face of such a sudden change, they had no chance to react at all. Fortunately, Nian Bing had pulled out his hexagram blade in time when he was falling into the abyss. Using the same source of ice and fire, he used a short-distance teleportation spell to reduce the speed of his fall. That was why he didn't fall to his death when he fell into the abyss. However, the excessive depletion of energy had also pushed Nian Bing's spiritual power to the brink of collapse. If not for the tenacity and perseverance that he had cultivated over many years, he would have died. If he didn't cultivate his mental strength, he would have fainted. Hillard also remained conscious. His current situation was much better than Nian Bing's. He sat not far from Nian Bing and quickly recovered his mental strength. He knew very well that only by winning the mental strength track and field competition could he face the unknown. The strong, evil aura underground filled his heart with uneasiness. Sharp and mournful cries rang out almost continuously. Each cry was louder than the last. Nian Bing took a deep breath and touched the wounds on his body that weren't too deep. He forced himself to sit cross-legged and used a simple water healing technique to treat the wounds on his body. His heart was now full of gratitude to Garamandes. If Garamandes hadn't dug the hell-like baptism, he was afraid that his bones would have been broken during the last fall. It was his tough body that saved his life. Of course, there was also the hexagram blade. "Boy, are you dead yet?" Hillard's cold voice sounded. It was so dark in the abyss that Nian Bing could only determine Hillard's current location by sensing his aura. "Thanks to you, I'm still alive. Senior, how are you? Are you hurt? The magic array is gone. Your mental strength should have recovered a little. I hope you don't forget your oath." In a dangerous place, he didn't want to have a powerful enemy by his side. However, he believed that as long as Hillard was not a fool, he would not harm him. After all, in a situation where there was an unknown crisis, the only rational choice was to cooperate. Recently, he was really unlucky to have encountered so many things while participating in a competition. Not to mention the two big chrysanthemums in the north and the south. The threat that Hillard brought to him was already fatal. It was not easy to control Hillard with a little cleverness, but he encountered this situation. "Why am I always the one who gets hurt?" Hillard was silent for a moment before he said, "My mental strength has recovered by about 50%. Your magic array did a lot of damage to me, and it will take some time for me to fully recover." Nian Bing could no longer detect any hostility from Hillard's voice. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Senior, where are we? Was that an earthquake?" Hillard snorted and said, "What earthquake? This disaster was caused by your magic array. Don't you feel that this place is full of cold evil? There must be something evil here. If I'm not wrong, your magic array must have opened some kind of seal that was imposed here, which will cause the mountains to collapse. As for the consequences of the ceremony, it is hard to say." Nian Bing sucked in a breath of cold air. "Senior, are you saying that I've undone the seal on some evil magical beast? You should be most familiar with all kinds of magical beasts. Is there any solution?" Hillard sighed and said, "There is no solution now. Let's wait until we recover our strength. However, it may not be a magical beast sealed here. It may be a human." "A human? A human can be sealed underground?" Nian Bing's voice was full of surprise. Hillard said indifferently. Nothing is impossible. This aura is so evil. I am afraid it is a very ominous thing. Nian Bing's mind raced as she hurriedly said, Senior, don't you have a summoned beast? Since this place is so dangerous, why don't you use your treasures to bring people out? Hillard said, Do you think I don't want to? However, the evil aura here is too strong. I am afraid that my pets can't bear it. We don't know how high this place is from the outside. Once my flying pets are affected by the evil aura and drop us, do you still have spatial magic scrolls to support us from falling to our deaths? Until now, he had not realized that Nian Bing was not using scrolls, but real spatial magic. Hearing the words spatial magic, Nian Bing was suddenly energized. Yes, she could use camouflage. With wind magic, she might be able to fly out. With her magic power, she should have no problem flying to an altitude of tens of thousands of meters. Chapter 92. Thinking of this, he suddenly relaxed a lot. Just as he was about to speed up the recovery of his mental strength so that he could leave this place as soon as possible, the mournful howl sounded again. However, this time, the howl was more real. It seemed to be in human language. I'm finally out again. After being sealed in the end of the earth for thousands of years, I've finally regained my freedom. Nian Bing's heart tightened. She remembered what Hillard had said and did not dare to be negligent. She immediately summoned the light that pierced through heaven and earth from the space node, the holy radiance blade. In an instant, the golden light flowed. Her eyes, which had adapted to the darkness, suddenly felt a stinging pain. It took a long time for her to return to normal. With the golden light on the holy radiance blade, Nian Bing saw that Hillard was sitting not far from her. Other than his face being a little pale, there was nothing wrong with him. At this time, he was looking at the holy radiance blade in her hand in surprise. He was so surprised that he could not speak. Last time, when Nian Bing used the holy radiance blade to scare you and the other two away, she used magic to seal the light on the blade. Hillard drank a lot with Arclight that day, so he did not notice it. At this time, seeing the blade full of light in the darkness, he was shocked. Nian Bing suddenly became more mysterious in his heart. Nian Bing was looking at herself with the axe. Compared to Hillard, she was in a much worse state. Her clothes were torn and blood-stained. If it were not for her strong body, she was afraid that she would have been turned into minced meat. Under the cover of the light aura, both of them felt refreshed and recovered a little. The Tianhua token on Nian Bing's chest felt the aura of the holy radiance blade. It emitted a gentle aura, nourishing Nian Bing's body. Her mental strength recovered a lot at this moment. She looked up and looked around. This was a huge canyon. With the light of the holy radiance blade, she could not see the end of the canyon. The canyon was about 30 feet wide, and the surrounding towering stone walls were actually black. Nian Bing was surprised to find that. In this place, the light of the holy radiance blade was suppressed to a certain extent. It was not as bright as when she first entered, but the aura of light still shrouded a radius of 10 feet, making the evil aura unable to approach. Nian Bing, where did you get this saber? Hillard looked at the holy radiant saber in Nian Bing's hand in bewilderment. He kept thinking about it in his mind. In this place where the evil aura was so strong, it could repel the evil aura with just the aura of the saber itself. This was definitely not an ordinary saber. How could he not be puzzled? It was red, blue, and not this golden long blade filled with the aura of light in front of him. It was a priceless treasure. As a mage, how could Nian Bing have so many treasures? With a faint smile, Nian Bing said, This saber was given to me by a friend. Senior, with this saber, will you be able to protect your pet and fly us out? The evil aura here is too strong. Shouldn't we leave as soon as possible? With Hillard's pet, they flew out. It was much easier than using magic to fly out. Furthermore, his magic power had not yet recovered to its optimal state. Hillard nodded and said, Okay, let's leave this place first. He slowly got up. Just as he was about to chant a spell to summon his pet, the shrill voice sounded again. The evil aura around them fluctuated violently. Since you're here, don't leave. After thousands of years of loneliness, I didn't expect to see humans again. Human, I have to thank you for letting me out. Yin Bing's heart tightened. She sincerely stepped forward and stood beside Hillard. With the light of the holy radiant saber, the two saw a black figure slowly approaching them. The black figure was tall and thin. He did not seem to be walking on his feet. He floated forward steadily. Hillard's eyes flashed. He shouted coldly, "Who's there? Human? I'm not a human anymore." What a hateful aura of light. Back then, this aura of the magicians forcefully suppressed me in this bottomless abyss. However, seeing that you released me, I will suck all of your blood essence and leave you with intact corpses. As they got closer, Nian Bing and Hillard finally saw that the evil voice did not come from a person. It came from a cloud of black fog. The thick evil fog floated slowly. All the evil aura in the surroundings seemed to be gathering in its direction. The entire cloud of fog had countless fog tentacles extending outwards. It looked extremely strange. Hillard was experienced and knowledgeable. When he saw the scene in front of him, he could not help but gasp. Nether Witch? You're a Nether Witch? You can actually see through my identity. You're not simple. It seems that you humans haven't completely forgotten about us. The aura of both of you is very good. You have a very rich magical aura. As long as I absorb your blood, I can make another breakthrough. Maybe I can reach the realm of Great Nether Witch. I'll destroy the entire human race and then find those hateful bastards to settle accounts. Hearing Hillard call out the two words, Nether Witch, Nian Bing's heart suddenly turned cold. She had also heard of the existence of Nether Witches. It was read in an ancient book on the 4th floor of the Ice Moon Empire's Magic Guild. The so-called Nether Witch was a mutated form of dark magicians. It was also one of the two forms of dark magicians that were most difficult to cultivate. After a dark magician reached the realm of magic shooters, it was very difficult for him to increase his strength because the backlash from dark magic was extremely strong. Although the dark magic law was the most powerful magic of all elements, its weakness was that the caster would be devoured by the darkness. Therefore, dark magicians who reached the realm of magic shooters only had 3 choices. One was to stop cultivating dark magic and work hard to strengthen their bodies with various magic items. When their bodies reached a certain level, they could continue cultivating. This method could be regarded as the orthodox way of cultivation for dark magicians, but it was extremely difficult to cultivate. If they were not careful, they would immediately be destroyed by the powerful backlash. Dark magicians cultivated much faster than other elements in the early stages. However, after reaching the realm of magic shooters, they would stagnate because it was difficult for them to make further progress. However, there were still 2 forbidden cultivation methods in the world of dark magicians. One of them was to cultivate to become a dark magician. The so-called dark magician referred to a dark magician who used a special method to completely abandon his own body, using his flesh and blood as the price in exchange for powerful dark magic power. Although the body was gone, the soul would exist forever. Not only would the dark magic power increase greatly, but they would also no longer be afraid of any physical attacks. However, the cultivation method of dark magicians was extremely difficult. Only 1 in 1,000 could succeed. Most of the dark magicians who chose the dark magician cultivation method would end up with their bodies destroyed and their souls scattered. However, it was precisely because the cultivation of dark magicians was extremely difficult. Once they succeeded, they would immediately step into the realm of dark magician. Dark magicians were much more powerful than other magicians of other elements. They had an almost limitless amount of dark magic power and a soul body that was not afraid of physical attacks. This made them the nightmare of powerhouses. The cultivation of dark magicians required them to absorb the blood essence of other creatures. Only then would they be able to continuously increase the evil energy in their bodies. According to the book that Nian Bing had read, once a dark magician appeared, they would become the public enemy of all humans. Every time a dark magician appeared, it would bring great disaster to humans. If one wanted to defeat them, they would have to pay a huge price. At this moment, Nianbing finally understood why this dark magician would say that he had been sealed for thousands of years. If it were a normal human, how could they survive for so long? However, dark magicians were different. They had an endless lifespan unless they were destroyed. Otherwise, they would continue to exist until the day they were destroyed. Those who cultivated dark magicians were the most evil existences. Even the world of dark magicians did not tolerate their existence. After all, dark magicians were too powerful. Moreover, the existence of dark magicians was the greatest threat to other dark magicians who also cultivated dark magicians. This was because dark magicians were the best nourishment for dark magicians. As for the third cultivation method for dark magicians to advance, it was the legendary liches. Liches were the ultimate dark magicians. Although dark magicians could also advance to the realm of God, descending magicians through continuous cultivation, because they did not have a physical body, they were unable to release the most powerful dark magic forbidden spells. However, liches were different. They had their own physical bodies and could be said to be the advancement of dark magicians. Only dark magicians could cultivate into the strongest dark magicians. They were the true powerhouses of the dark world. When one reached the realm of liches, there was no longer any distinction between good and evil. With their powerful dark magic, even light could not be their nemesis. However, liches only existed in legends. After all, cultivating into a lich was much more difficult than cultivating into a god-descending magician. A lich that had lived for thousands of years was a very powerful existence. Even if he had been sealed, his strength was probably not something a dark magician could compare to. Not to mention that both of them had lost a lot of their strength. Even if they were in perfect condition, it would be difficult for them to contend with the dark magician in front of them. They had really hit the nail on the head this time. Nianbing had a bitter smile on her face. She subconsciously glanced at Hillard beside her and said in a low voice, "I will try my best to hold him back. You can summon the dragon." Hillard smiled bitterly and said, "I also want to summon the dragon, but Caradiris has gone to participate in their Dragon King party. Will he be back? My mental strength is not enough now, so I can't contact him at all. We can only go all out now. I hope that the sword in your hand can suppress the dark magician more." If he was in perfect condition and had Caradiris by his side, Hillard was absolutely confident that he could fight the lich in front of him. However, in this situation, he no longer had any thoughts of rejoicing. At this moment, there was no point in regretting. Secretly, he seized every second to accumulate his mental strength. The dark magician had endured loneliness for so many years. Now that he finally saw humans, he was not in a hurry to kill Nianbing and Hillard. In his eyes, the two humans in front of him were his delicacies. There was no possibility of them escaping. Chatter chuckled again. "Which one of you destroyed the seal? Your method of destruction is pretty good. It should be something like a divine restriction. Unfortunately, the energy was a little weak. Only with my strength did I manage to destroy the seal that had trapped me for so many years. Tell me, what method did you use?" Nianbing's heart skipped a beat. She understood that both she and Hillard needed time to recover their magic power. The more power they recovered, the more likely they would be able to escape. She smiled and said, "Respected Mr. Dark Magician, I was the one who destroyed the seal. I just drew a magic circle by accident. I didn't expect to release you. Are you the only one in this abyss? You are really powerful. This is the first time I've felt such a strong, evil aura." Hearing Nianbing's praise, the dark magician seemed to feel very comfortable. "I wasn't the only one here. Kid, don't use the word human to describe me. I've said it before. I'm not a human anymore. Back then, when the 8 of us were running amok on the continent, we would kill anyone who stood in our way. Damn it. Later on, those bastards who called themselves gods broke the hateful divine restriction and self-destructed to create a huge amount of energy. I was about to reach the Lich realm, but I was forcefully destroyed by their divine restriction. In order to survive, I had no choice but to take the risk and transform into a dark magician. Out of the 8 of us, only Emperor Kurobutsu and I survived, but we were sealed in this place. The strong, evil aura you felt was left behind by those 6 idiots who died. I alone don't have that much evil aura. It's a pity that I don't have any blood essence to absorb. Otherwise, I would have transformed this evil aura into my body long ago. If I had succeeded, I would have become the first person who cultivated from a dark magician to become a sorcerer god. At that time, I would even be able to reconstruct my body. Hearing this, Nian Bing's and Hillard's hearts sank. A dark magician who was close to the Lich realm transformed into a dark magician. How powerful would he be? In other words, before he transformed into a dark magician, he had already surpassed the dark magician realm. Perhaps even the only god-descending magician on the continent, the ice goddess, might not be his match. The dark magician's black fog rippled. Kid, put away your broken blade. Damn it. Although the light has no effect on me now, this aura is still annoying. Nian Bing said, Respected Mr. Dark Magician, if I put away my blade, I won't be able to see your great form. Anyway, it can't hurt you, so let me hold it. What a joke. Putting away the Holy Radiance Blade would only make them die faster. With the light aura of the Holy Radiance Blade, at least Ling Nian Bing and Hillard felt safer. The Dark Magician snorted. What? Do you think I'm afraid of this blade? All right, I'll let you see my strength. As soon as he finished speaking, a tentacle formed from black fog reached in front of Nian Bing like lightning. Nian Bing didn't have time to react at all. She felt as if her body had fallen into an ice cellar, and her blood seemed to have completely frozen at this moment. The Holy Radiance Blade in her hand had already been swept away by the black tentacle. Just as the Dark Magician said, the golden light of the Holy Radiance Blade couldn't hurt the tentacle at all. The Dark Magician brought the Holy Radiance Blade to his black fog. The black fog suddenly expanded and completely swallowed the Holy Radiance Blade. The golden light disappeared, and the surroundings became dark again. Did you see that? The light has an effect on me. No one can stop me, Safin, from doing what I want to do. I haven't spoken for thousands of years, and now I have so much more. Bastard. It's actually Sacred Teacher's Dawnblade. Damn it, why am I so unlucky? Safin's voice gradually weakened, but the white light became more and more intense. The Holy Brilliance saber floated in the air, looking so pure and holy. The pure white light on the saber made Nian Bing and Hillard feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. The two of them looked at each other in surprise, reading the joy in each other's eyes. They had really come back from death's door. Who would have thought that the Holy Radiance Blade would be able to injure the Lich in front of them? Underworld, which Safin seemed to be still resisting. The black mist that was as thick as liquid continued to churn. Hillard activated it. His eyes gradually turned white as he chanted loudly, "The Gate of Spirit. Open with my spirit, transcend the limits of time and space, and release the boundless ripples." Spirit ripples. Every word that came out of his mouth shook Nian Bing's heart like a morning bell. With every word that came out of his mouth, the black mist would ripple violently. Its resistance to the white light released by the Holy Brilliant Saber would also weaken. When the last word came out of his mouth, Nian Bing could clearly feel an enormous amount of spirit ripple violently in the air. It was like a sharp blade cutting through the Dark Magician's black mist. Nian Bing secretly rejoiced in his heart. Although he could already use 5 types of mimicry spells, he was afraid that it would be useless against a psychopath like Hillard. It was no wonder that he was willing to let him draw the magic array earlier. With such powerful spirit magic, how could she not be confident? The most frightening thing about spirit magic was that it was not affected by any other energy. Unless the opponent's spirit was stronger than the caster's, it would be very difficult to connect. This was also the reason why Hillard had such a high status in Arclight. He was a powerful dragon summoner and possessed powerful magic that would make anyone fear. Although he was not as powerful as a god-sent priest or a priest of the ice goddess, there were very few magicians on the continent who could contend against Hillard. Under the attack of the spirit magic, Dark Magician Safin's resistance was greatly weakened, and his shrill screams became much weaker. Even Yin Bing did not expect that the saber used by the sacred teacher would be so powerful. In fact, when Garamandes told her about the sacred teacher, he only gave a rough description. Back then, after the sacred teacher became famous in the Yangon continent, he used the Blade of Dawn to deal with all the injustices in the world. The saber was a good one, and the sacred teacher's righteous aura was subtly absorbed by the saber. This was no longer a pure aura, but the holy aura of the sacred teacher. The dark magician was originally a practitioner of the most evil in the world. He carelessly sucked the holy saber into his body and wanted to completely crush it, but he completely activated the holy aura inside the holy saber. All kinds of positive aura burst out. Not only Safin, but even a powerful lich would not have a good ending if he swallowed the saber. Safin's resistance was getting weaker and weaker, and the black aura dispersed. Finally, when the shrill screams stopped, everything returned to normal. The holy saber fell out of the air and stabbed into the ground under its own weight. More than 80% of the evil aura in the entire abyss was swept away by the holy aura of the holy glory. Only a faint evil aura was faintly emitted in the distance, but did not dare to approach the holy saber. The pure white light of the holy saber did not disappear, but became even more holy, and the entire saber was dyed white like jade. Nian Bing let out a long breath. Just as she was about to retrieve the precious saber that saved her and Hillard's life, something happened again. A layer of holy aura was emitted from the holy glory stone at the hilt of the saber. It condensed into a ball in the air and gradually formed a blurry human figure. Nian Bing was shocked and could not help but put her foot down. Hillard was also shocked and subconsciously prepared to attack with spirit magic. A low and ethereal voice slowly sounded. I did not expect that the spirit imprint I left in the saber would be activated. Brave humans, you did not retreat in the face of an enemy like the Dark Witch. It seems that humans are much stronger than before. Although the blurry human figure's appearance could not be seen clearly, its tall figure gave Nian Bing and Hillard a lot of pressure. Nian Bing and Hillard looked at each other and asked tentatively, "Are you the sacred teacher? How did you?" The white light rippled slightly and said, "That's right. I am the magician who seeks the sacred teacher that the Dark Witch spoke of. This dawn saber has been with me for many years and has killed countless evil people. Young man, are you its master now? You are indeed worthy of this saber. Back then, when your blood soaked into the saber, I could already feel it from afar. Although there are many impurities in your aura, your heart is kind. Although the path you walk is different from mine, one day you will also become a person like me. However, before that, you must guard your heart and not be blinded by hatred. I can feel that your body structure is very different from that of an ordinary human. It can be said that you're not a simple human. Even I am very surprised by the potential you possess. Properly develop your potential. All right, after this spirit imprint of mine is activated, it can only be maintained for a short period of time. I will not appear again in the future. This holy radiant saber will completely become your weapon. Use it well, and don't let its brilliance be tarnished. I hope that one day, when you reach the same realm as us, we can meet again. Come with me. There is something you need here before my aura completely dissipates. I will guide you to subdue it. With it, your strength will be greatly enhanced." As soon as he finished speaking, the white light stretched out a hand-shaped radiance and grabbed the holy radiant saber, slowly floating towards the depths of this bottomless abyss. Nian Bing and Hillard hurriedly followed. The white light didn't float very fast. Their speed was just enough to keep up. While walking, Nian Bing couldn't help but ask, "Sacred teacher, do you know that Dark Witch from just now?" He said that he had been sealed here for several thousand years. At that time, there were 8 dark powerhouses like him. Sacred teacher said indifferently, "That's right. This Dark Witch Safin was a figure of the same generation as me. At that time, there were 8 of them in total. 4 of them chose to cultivate as earth liches. However, none of them succeeded. The other 4 were dark warriors. They used their tyrannical dark do chi to become fierce. The 8 of them once brought great calamity to humanity. Wherever they passed, not a single blade of grass would grow. At that time, I was still no match for them. However, they were too ferocious and killed countless people. Once, I encountered them and fought them to the death. Just as I was about to be killed, the light of God finally shrouded the earth. The 8 of them were already close to the power of God. In order to exterminate them, a god exhausted his life force to create a powerful restriction. In the end, only Seifen and Emperor Kurobutsu survived. In several generations, they were the strongest of the 8. Seifen and the other 3 dark magi couldn't advance to Lich at the last moment and chose to switch to Dark Witch. With their powerful dark abilities, they had a high chance of success. But even so, Seifen was the only one who survived. Later, the power of the forbidden land of the gods weakened and wasn't enough to kill Seifen and the Dark Warrior. Thus, they were sealed here in the suburbs of the capital. Without the supply of blood essence, the Dark Witch would gradually die. But unexpectedly, Seifen used the evil aura of his companions and a dark treasure to forcefully suppress his dark aura. That was how he managed to survive until today. Emperor Kurobutsu was still a human after all. He died long ago. Originally, Seifen wouldn't have been able to hold on for another 100 years. Without the supply of blood essence, the Dark Witch would have gradually died. But unexpectedly, Seifen used the evil aura of his companions and a dark treasure to forcefully suppress his own dark aura. That was how he managed to survive until today. Emperor Kurobutsu was still a human after all, and he died long ago. Originally, Seifen wouldn't have been able to hold on for another 100 years. Without the supply of blood essence, the Dark Witch would have gradually died. But unexpectedly, Seifen used the evil aura of his companions and a dark treasure to forcefully suppress his dark aura. Fortunately, you have my blade, and that underworld which Seifen carelessly absorbed the blade into his body, resulting in his death. Child, do you know? You almost caused a calamity for the human race. Wait until I bring you to retrieve that thing. Then we will absorb all the remaining evil energy here, so as to prevent it from harming the human race. Nian Bing's back was drenched in cold sweat, nodding repeatedly, saying, "This time it was my negligence. I didn't expect that the array formation would cause such a huge disturbance." The sacred teacher sighed, saying, "Even we didn't expect that the key array formation from back then would still be recorded in the Yangon continent." Nian Bing, could it be that you didn't feel that the array formation didn't have any special effects? Not only is it extremely complicated to draw, it also consumes a huge amount of spiritual energy, but the effect isn't very good, and it will even backfire on the user. Nian Bing smiled bitterly. When I was researching this array formation, the magicians thought that its structure was strange and complicated, and it had lost the most important activation part, so I researched it on a whim. Later on, I discovered that using the same source of fire and ice could activate this array formation. Today, when facing Senior Hillard, this array formation was extremely effective, but I didn't expect that an underworld which would be sealed here. The sacred teacher said indifferently, "The past is the past. In the future, whatever you do, you have to think carefully about whether you regret it. You must remember my words. Don't let hatred blind your eyes." Nian Bing's body trembled as he protested. "But how can I not avenge my father? My parents can't let me die in vain." The sacred teacher sighed, saying, "It's not appropriate for me to get involved in the matters of the Yangon continent. You have to take care of yourself." This time, after the spiritual imprint was activated, it discovered that the Yangon continent has entered a rare period of peace. As long as there are no more disasters, it's good. The 2 people and the knife gradually walked into the depths of the darkness. The place where Nian Bing and Hillard were originally, it became deserted again. A faint black gas condensed, forming a small black fog, underworld which Seifen's deep voice was filled with anger. "Bastard, sacred teacher, you bastard, you actually destroyed so much of my cultivation. Fortunately, I have mastered the ability of Dark World's doppelganger. Otherwise, I would have been killed by you. Just you wait. After I recover my magical power, I will definitely show you." Seifen didn't die, although his current strength was less than 1% of his peak. But he firmly believed that as long as he had enough blood essence, he would be able to cultivate back to his peak in a short time. After all, he still had the foundation of being an underworld witch. Sensing that the evil aura in the surroundings had weakened by 80%, Safin knew that he had to leave this place as soon as possible. The most important thing was to recover his strength first. Just as Safin was about to float away, a huge figure flew down from the sky. A soft sound of surprise rang out, the huge wings retracted, and a petite figure jumped to the ground. We finally reached the bottom. After flying so far, it's so tiring. Brother Ping Chao, your back is so hard. Next time you should prepare a cushion. Seeing that someone else had come, Safin immediately lay on the ground, not daring to make a sound. He wasn't as strong as before. This vampire's aura wasn't weak. It wasn't something he could deal with now. Ping Chao smiled bitterly in his heart. The one who flew hundreds of kilometers was him. She was sitting comfortably on his back, and she was actually complaining about being tired. This was really unreasonable, but after all, Yu Yu was his little master. What could he say? Looking around, he asked in confusion, "Why is the aura of darkness here so much weaker? The aura I felt in Teru City was much stronger than this. No, something must have happened here. I summon you with my soul. Open my eye of darkness." Hearing Ping Chao's incantation, Safin couldn't help but have a bad feeling. But he was now extremely weak. The little bit of energy he had accumulated with great difficulty was no longer enough for him to hide or escape. The faint green light swept out in a fan shape. The first thing Ping Chao noticed was Underworld, which Safin's existence. Chapter 93. Even with Ping Chao's steel-like nerves, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Safin. He shouted, "Dark Witch!" He immediately blocked in front of Yu Yu and raised his abilities to the limit. His blood-red eyes shone with a terrifying light. Yu Yu was stunned at first. Then, she curiously poked her head out from under the armpit and looked at the dark witch that appeared in the green light of the Eye of Darkness. She giggled and said, "What a cute little dark witch. Brother Ping Chao, are you sure he's a dark witch? My father said that dark witches are extremely powerful dark ones, but he doesn't look powerful at all." Ping Chao frowned. He kept gathering his dark energy while observing the dark witch in front of him. At this moment, Safin was complaining in his heart. He knew that he couldn't run now because he couldn't run fast with his current abilities. Once he ran, the other party would immediately realize how weak he was. They were all dark ones, so how could they let him go? He had no choice but to pretend to be cold and said, "That's right, I'm the great dark witch. You two juniors, aren't you afraid of being destroyed for trespassing into my territory?" Ping Chao said, "Senior Dark Witch, we rushed over because we sense your aura. My master wishes to unite all the dark forces and create a business together. Would you be willing to work with us?" As he spoke, he secretly released his dark energy and probed Dark Witch Safin. He had also sensed the problem Yu Yu was talking about. Dark witches were extremely powerful beings. However, this small black fog in front of him didn't give him any sense of oppression. This didn't make sense. However, the black fog spoke in a human voice, and it was filled with the aura of death and evil. He was obviously a real dark witch. Ping Chao was confused for a moment, and he secretly sensed Safin's abilities. Safin snorted and said, "I'm not interested in working with you. As a powerful dark witch, I don't need to work with anyone. Since we're from the same origin, you can leave. Otherwise, I won't be polite." Yu Yu giggled. She came out from behind Ping Chao and said, "Won't be polite? Why won't you be polite? You look so weak like a child. Great dark energy. Please turn into an endless demonic barrier and cover everything in front of you. Show the real world eyes of truth." Yu Yu's beautiful big black eyes emitted a bright light that rippled outwards. A trace of green light flashed through her beautiful eyes. In the next moment, she had already observed the situation around her. Although the darkness aura here was not weak, it was not weak. However, it was far from being as strong as Ping Chao had described it to be, and the small ball of black mist in front of him was pitifully weak. Even his own dark magic energy could easily surpass it. Is there such a weak dark wizard? This is the first time I've seen one. Daddy said that my baby greenie needs a soul to become a more powerful magic tool. Since you're a little dark witch, why don't you give it to me? Since you're little, since years go. The green light suddenly shone brightly, and the green skull that was used to deal with Kitty suddenly appeared in front of Serene. Serene green flames spurted out from the skull's eyes and turned into green flame threads that wrapped around Underworld, which Safin. At this moment, Safin knew that no matter how much she tried to intimidate him, it would be useless. She had no choice but to gather the last of her magic power and quickly flee into the air. The black fog condensed into a small black and purple ball, and like a star, it shot into the darkness above. After all, Yu was still too inexperienced. She was still unable to display the full power of her magic tool. Sapine suddenly sped up and rushed out of the threads formed by the green flames. However, Sapine had already lost her composure and suddenly revealed her cowardice. How could she be let off by someone who was also a member of the darkness? Go back. A cold voice echoed above Safin. If there were a few abilities that vampires were most proficient in, then speed would definitely be one of them. Dark Wizard Safin could easily deal with Ping Chao at his peak, but he was no match for Ping Chao in his current state. A huge dark aura pressed down like a black cloud. Safin felt his body tighten, as if he had fallen into a swamp. He couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried. At this moment, Yu had already commanded her green flames to wrap around Sapine. With Ping Chao's help, it accurately wrapped around Sapine. Sapine was gloomy. He had never thought that after being sealed for thousands of years, he would encounter such a situation when he finally managed to escape from the sea of suffering. Before he could think of anything else, the dark purple ball of energy that his body had transformed into was sucked into the mouth of the skull in front of Yu under the effect of the green flames. Yu made a few consecutive hand gestures, and the skull emitted a bright green light, completely isolating the aura of the outside world from the inside. Although Yu was just a cute little girl on the surface, and sometimes she would be impulsive because of her own preferences, but the various dark magic that she had cultivated with her father since she was young was extremely pure. She completely knew what to do in any situation. Retrieving the green skull, Yu looked at Vampire Ping Chao and asked, "Big Brother Ping Chao, do you think this little ball is really the Dark Witch?" Ping Chao nodded and said, "It definitely is. When I came into contact with his body just now, I discovered that although his dark energy is extremely weak, he is definitely a Dark Witch. His spiritual aura is very strong, but I don't know why he suffered such a huge injury, which is why he is so weak. Yu, you have obtained a priceless treasure this time. With the Dark Witch as the soul, you will definitely be able to create an extremely powerful magic tool. However, you better not use Little Green now. I'm afraid that you won't be able to control the Dark Witch and let him escape. Let's go quickly. When we get back, I will ask Master to perfect this magic tool for you. Dark witches are very rare in this world, and those who choose to cultivate dark witches and succeed are pitifully few. I think Master might know the origin of this Dark Witch. With Master's 9 underworld demonic fire, he will definitely be able to find out everything about this Dark Witch. With him, Little Master Yu's strength will definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened here in the past, but the originally dense dark aura has become much thinner. Otherwise, this would be a very suitable place for you to cultivate. Let's go. After saying that, Ping Chao lowered his body and transformed back into a huge bat. Yu jumped onto Ping Chao's back. Brother Ping Chao, you have to fly faster. I like the feeling of speed. Sigh. When we get back, I will definitely ask Father to help you become a count as soon as possible. That way, you will be able to fly even faster. The pitiful Dark Witch Safin had become the soul of Yu's magic tool, just like that, unable to realize his dream. He could only lament within the green skull. Yu and Ping Chao quickly left this dark abyss. At this time, Nian Bing and Hillard were following Holy Blade into the deepest part of the dark abyss. The dark abyss was exceptionally clear under Holy Blade's light. There was no road at all, and the intricate terrain was extremely difficult to traverse. Nian Bing and Hillard each cast a fourth-rank wind spell, levitation, on each of them, so that it would not be difficult for them to advance. Hillard couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Nian Bing cast a wind spell. However, he didn't ask Nian Bing about it at this time. Although the fourth-order levitation spell wasn't considered a powerful spell, it was a sign that a wind magician had advanced from the intermediate level to the advanced level. Although the levitation spell couldn't allow one to fly, it was a very practical spell that consumed very little mana. It was most suitable to be used in places with complicated terrains and would be very effective. We're here. Holy Blade, which was floating in the air, slowly came to a stop. Nian Bing looked through the light of Holy Blade and discovered that they had arrived at the end of the abyss. In front of him was a 100,000-foot-high wall that towered into the darkness. And at the bottom of this wall was a strange skeleton. The reason it was strange was because this skeleton was actually pure black in color. The black skeleton looked abnormally strange. Sitting on the wall behind it, the skeleton's skeletal hands held a long blade tightly. This long blade was different from the Holy Glory blade because it wasn't wide and thick. The blade and scabbard were only 1 inch wide, but it was longer than the Holy Glory blade. If it wasn't for the extremely strong light on the Holy Glory blade, it would be impossible to discover this pitch-black blade in the darkness. Under the light of the Holy Glory blade, the black thin blade trembled slightly. It wasn't trembling out of fear, but rather a kind of challenge, as if it had encountered a strong opponent. A small gem was inlaid at the end of the hilt. The gem was purple and triangular, and the sharp tail of the gem poked out from the back of the hilt. It seemed that the gem itself was one of the attack methods of this blade. The dark purple gem didn't shine, and there was a faint layer of black air surrounding it, covering the reflection of the gem. Emperor Kurobutsu can be said to be the pinnacle of the warriors in the Dark World, but he died here. Speaking of which, it's really sad. The sacred teacher's tone was a bit emotional, but there was also a bit of respect in his voice. The opponent that he respected, Nian Bing and Hillard, couldn't help but look at him in a new light. This Emperor Kurobutsu must have had a legendary life. Emperor Kurobutsu, in our era, was the pinnacle that no dark warrior could surpass. That's why he was called the Martial Emperor. After I started my martial arts career, I fought with him 3 times. The first time, he almost killed me with a knife. The second time, he used 2 knives. The third time, he used 3 knives. The third time, after he defeated me, he told me that he could have easily killed me, but he felt that I had great potential and could gradually become his knife tester, so he spared my life. In order to catch up with Emperor Kurobutsu's strength, I kept working hard. However, until the last time I saw him, I still couldn't withstand more than 100 knives from him. Among the 8 Emperor Kurobutsu and the others, the most cunning one was the underworld witch Safin, but the one who had the strength to contend with God and could make God explode to destroy him was Emperor Kurobutsu. At that time, 70% of the power of God's explosion was targeted at Emperor Kurobutsu. However, he still survived, which showed how powerful he was. In fact, Emperor Kurobutsu wasn't really evil. He was just a martial arts addict. In order to cultivate to a higher level of martial arts, he threw himself into the darkness. When he finally faced the God's prohibition, he had already surpassed the level of God Master on the continent. He had reached a level that even God feared. That's why he had to use God's explosion to destroy him. Otherwise, he would have challenged God's domain sooner or later. The respect in Sacred Teacher's voice became more and more obvious. The light on the Holy Radiant Sword was obviously dimmer than before. Do you see the sword in Emperor Kurobutsu's hand? That's the Dark World's 3rd demonic weapon, the Demon Devouring Sword. In Emperor Kurobutsu's hands, this sword was almost invincible. The 3 strikes that I mentioned earlier were all done before the Emperor Kurobutsu left the scabbard. Emperor Kurobutsu only had this sword in his heart. This sword had already completely merged with his essence, chi, and spirit. In the later stages of Emperor Kurobutsu's cultivation, he used his soul as a sword. His entire being had completely merged with the demon-devouring sword. That was the power that could split the heavens and earth. Although my Dawn sword has reached the level of a divine weapon due to the increase in holy power, it can't be compared to this demon-devouring sword. However, with this holy radiant stone embedded in it, it shouldn't be much worse than this demon-devouring sword. Nian Bing, you're lucky. Each of your swords has an extraordinary origin. At the same time, they all have powerful energy. In fact, you don't need to pursue other cultivation methods in the process of cultivation. As long as you have the power to fully activate these swords, then you're already a powerful magician. This is the first time I've seen someone use human strength to cultivate mimicry magic. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Emperor Kurobutsu's demon-devouring sword can completely fill the gap in your dark world. However, although Emperor Kurobutsu is dead, it won't be easy for you to gain the recognition of this demon-devouring sword. You'll have to pay the price of your flesh and blood. If you fail, you'll at least become disabled. Are you willing to try? Nian Bing was silent. As long as one was human, they wouldn't want to become disabled. However, after listening to the sacred teacher's explanation to Emperor Kurobutsu, it was impossible for him not to be tempted by this thin demon-devouring sword. From the day he started cultivating mimicry magic, Nian Bing knew how difficult it was to gather all 7 swords, especially the magic swords with dark and space elements. Not to mention the highest quality ones, even the most ordinary ones were very precious and hard to find, especially the dark element magic items. They were taboo in the mainland, let alone the highest quality ones. Facing the demon-devouring sword now could be said to be the best opportunity. If he could have it, the only thing he lacked was the earth element magic swords. Darkness was mysterious to Nian Bing. At the same time, it was also the field he wanted to explore the most. Hillard looked at Nian Bing. Although he hated the dark element the most, he believed the sacred teacher's words without a doubt. What was mimicry magic? Could it be that Nian Bing could use all types of magic? Would he want the saber? Under the circumstances that he might have to pay the price of being disabled. If it were him, what would he choose? The answer was blank. Hillard also understood how difficult this choice was. After a long while, Nian Bing slowly raised his head. His eyes had become calm. There was a soft glow in his clear eyes, without any fluctuations of emotion. He calmly said to the sacred teacher, "I'm willing to try." It was only a simple 5 words, but it represented a lot of courage. Nian Bing's calmness deeply shocked Hillard's heart. It gave him a new understanding of the young man in front of him. He suddenly had a feeling that he was not as good as his daughter when it came to judging people. The young man in front of him was indeed outstanding. He was so outstanding, not only because of his strange magic, but also because of his temperament. Hillard looked deeply at Nian Bing. His eyes had become soft. In fact, as early as when he and Nian Bing fell into the abyss, he had already given up all thoughts of harming Nian Bing. Nian Bing did not say, but Hillard was very curious about how Nian Bing's injuries came about. When they fell into the abyss from the crack, both of their spiritual powers were very weak, especially Hillard. His spiritual powers were limited, so he could not use his spiritual magic at all, let alone summon his pet. Hillard closed his eyes and waited for his death. However, he did not die. It was Nian Bing who grabbed his arm in midair. Nian Bing's spiritual power was also very weak. When she used spatial magic to slow down, the speed of her descent was getting faster and faster. In order to survive, Nian Bing pulled Hillard as close as possible to the stone wall of the abyss and used spatial magic every time. She used all her strength to kick the stone wall a few times and used spatial magic to slow down the speed of their descent. At that time, Nian Bing used her body to protect Hillard. The scars on his body were all made by the stone wall, but Hillard was unscathed as he landed on the ground. Hillard had mixed feelings. Although he tried to maintain a calm appearance, his heart was already in turmoil. When Underworld's sorcerer Safin appeared, Hillard secretly decided that even if he had to sacrifice his life, he would save Nian Bing and return the favor. However, in the end, it was Nian Bing's saber that saved them. At this moment, in order to obtain more power, Nian Bing resolutely chose to try. Hillard admitted that he could not compare to this kind of courage. The sacred teacher's voice became even more benevolent. Nian Bing, do you really want to ask Chu for help? There is no medicine for regret in this world, even on the continent of gods. I hope you can understand. Nian Bing nodded firmly. I'm willing to try. How can I get something without paying a price? I understand this. Sacred teacher, please tell me what to do. The sacred teacher said, I have brought you here and told you the price you may have to pay. As for what to do, it is up to you. If you want the demon-devouring saber to acknowledge you, it is equivalent to gaining Emperor Kurobutsu's approval. This depends on your determination. I believe that you will succeed. Nian Bing was slightly stunned. Do you want me to think of a way? A blank look flashed across her eyes. She nodded and walked with firm steps to Emperor Kurobutsu's remains. Without touching or testing, Nian Bing could clearly feel the steel-like feeling of the black skeleton left behind by Emperor Kurobutsu. It was no wonder that the sacred teacher praised her so much for being able to practice martial arts to such a degree. A faint smile appeared on Nian Bing's face. She knelt on one knee and firmly reached out her hand to grasp the end of the demon-devouring saber. The black scabbard was so icy. It was completely different from the morning dew saber. In an instant, Nian Bing's body trembled violently. All kinds of illusions kept appearing in her mind. The illusions were not very clear, but Nian Bing seemed to see everything that had happened to Emperor Kurobutsu when he was alive. Those scenes were filled with a feeling of power. This thin saber in Emperor Kurobutsu's hands was filled with a domineering aura that filled heaven and earth. Vaguely, Nian Bing seemed to feel that Emperor Kurobutsu was not dead. The cold dark aura was so pure. The pure darkness contained evil that was many times more powerful than before the holy radiant saber dispelled it. The evil power of ice kept stimulating Nian Bing's body, as if it was about to trigger something. The heavenly flower token emitted a gentle aura. Under its guidance, the power of ice and fire was completely released, fusing into a red and blue ball of light. Although it could not dispel the evil aura, it could protect her mind and cooperate with the heavenly flower token to prevent her mind from being invaded by evil. What Hillard saw from the outside was another scene. Nian Bing was kneeling on one knee. His body was surrounded by red and blue light, and the outermost layer was a circle of holy white aura. The demon-devouring saber was full of darkness. Black foam covered the skeleton left by Emperor Kurobutsu. It seemed to be an exchange of energy, but it also seemed to be a mutual attack. Hillard knew that at this moment, no one could help Nian Bing. The only person who could help him was himself. Unconsciously, Hillard had already clenched his fists. He suddenly realized that this young man who repaid evil with kindness was so important in his heart. Nian Bing did not know how much time had passed. At the last moment, all the illusions merged together. All he saw was a saber, the demon-devouring saber. It was a domineering and evil saber. When Nian Bing opened his eyes, he found that he had already stood up. The demon-devouring saber that Emperor Kurobutsu held tightly in his hand was also in his hand. In contrast to the holy radiant saber, this narrow saber seemed to be weightless in his hand. It was extremely light in his hand. The cold, evil aura on the saber was like a silent, demonic beast that was always calm. Nian Bing understood that he had yet to gain the recognition of this saber. He had only gone through the first test of the demon-devouring saber and the Black Martial Emperor. He firmly believed that this saber had its own spirituality. Furthermore, its spirituality was the best of all the treasured sabers he had obtained so far. He held the scabbard with one hand and the hilt with the other. Bing Ling felt that the saber seemed to be more powerful, especially the evil aura. Nian Bing understood that the time to test himself had come. A faint cold light appeared in his eyes. Nian Bing pulled the demon-devouring saber out of the scabbard with his right hand. The saber was the same as the scabbard. It was also dim. Even under the light of the holy radiant saber, there was no reflection. Nian Bing held the hilt and slowly raised the demon-devouring saber. The black saber was only slightly curved in front. Although the saber was very thin and light, It was filled with a sense of fullness when held in his hand. It was as if the saber could cut through all obstacles. His wrist moved slightly and looked at the pure black saber. Nian Bing said softly, demon-devouring saber, from now on, I am your new master. I am not as powerful as Senior Black Martial Emperor, but I will not let you be humiliated. One day, I will let you shine with the most dazzling brilliance. After saying the last sentence, Nian Bing's eyes suddenly shone brightly. Amid Hillard's exclamation, he threw the demon-devouring saber into the air. The demon-devouring saber disappeared in the air. Nian Bing stretched his left arm out to the side and closed his eyes. His purpose was very simple. He wanted to use his left arm to gamble whether the demon-devouring saber would accept him. He firmly believed that sabers had spirituality. Hillard's heart suddenly tightened, but he did not stop Nian Bing. Since Nian Bing had made his choice, he respected this courageous choice. The spinning saber appeared again, but it was not as fast as when it was thrown up. It fell in the direction of Nian Bing's left arm. No one doubted that if the saber fell on Nian Bing's left arm, it would definitely be cut off. Hillard closed his eyes. With a soft clink, the blade fell to the ground. Half of the blade was already embedded in the hard rock. Nian Bing and Hillard opened their eyes at the same time. Their target was Nian Bing's left arm. His left arm was still there, but there was a thin red mark on his forearm. Fresh blood dripped from the red mark and dripped onto the sharp purple gem on the handle of the demon-devouring blade. The gem was dyed red, and the originally dull blade suddenly burst with a red glow. The purple gem lit up like a lamp. Although it was not as bright as the other gems in Nian Bing's possession, it contained a large amount of dark energy. The moment it lit up, the light on the demon-devouring blade fluctuated violently and weakened by half. With a soft hum, the demon-devouring saber trembled slightly. It was a sound of desire, as if it was reawakened by Nian Bing's blood. A strange scene appeared. Emperor Kurobutsu's steel-like black skeleton suddenly changed. The black skeleton melted like snow, forming a cloud of black powder that floated up and surged toward the red light on the saber. When the red light came into contact with the black powder, it completely digested the black powder. The powder gradually disappeared, and the red light on the saber turned dark red. The light on the purple gem gradually faded and returned to its original appearance. A circle of black air floated up from the saber and wrapped around Nian Bing's left arm. With a bang, the saber flew toward Nian Bing's hand under the guidance of the black air. Nian Bing subconsciously opened her palm and firmly grasped the handle of the demon-devouring saber. When she touched it again, it felt completely different. Although the evil was still there was no sense of invasion. As if it was connected to her flesh and blood, the demon-devouring saber seemed to have become an extension of her left arm. She slowly raised her arm. Holding the saber horizontally in front of her eyes, Nian Bing revealed a faint smile on her face. Your courage has been acknowledged by the devouring devil. Use it well. No matter how evil a blade is, when used properly, it can still be a blade of justice. I'm going back. Your renamed Holy Radiance blade will no longer have my spiritual imprint. It will truly become your blade. Use it well. Just like you said, don't let these divine blades of yours down. One day, let them shine with the light they deserve. Oh, by the way, there's one thing I need to remind you. When the demon-devouring saber was in Emperor Kurobutsu's hands, it had a title called the Ancestral Curse of Eternal Hell. Once your heart is filled with hatred, there is a possibility that the curse will be activated. Even I don't know what will happen then. I hope that such a situation will not happen. Since it's called a curse, it will not be a good thing. The white radiance also dimmed. With a light ding sound, the Holy Radiance blade was inserted into the ground. The sphere of white light formed by the sacred expert floated away, but the Holy Radiance blade still flickered with a pure and holy white radiance. Nian Bing walked in front of the Holy Radiance saber. She grabbed the handle of the saber and stretched out her arms. The aura of light and darkness stimulated her body at the same time. Ice and fire came from the same source. and the red and blue mana expanded a little under the strong stimulation. Suddenly, clear black air rapidly condensed around the demon-devouring saber. Circles of black air continuously poured into the saber, and the evil aura in the surrounding air rapidly weakened. The demon-devouring saber did not change, but the evil aura it gave Nian Bing became stronger and stronger. Minutes and seconds passed, and Nian Bing still maintained his original position. Finally, when the last of the black air surged towards the demon-devouring saber, its scabbard on the ground turned into powder, and the stone walls around the bottomless abyss turned gray. The original black, evil aura completely disappeared. Nian Bing understood. After the demon-devouring saber recognized her as its master, it absorbed all the remaining evil aura and sealed it in its own body. At this time, Nian Bing could not help but feel a little confused. Was it a good thing or a bad thing that she obtained this dark blade? The sacred teacher just said that no matter how evil the saber was, as long as the person was not invaded by evil and hatred, the demon-devouring saber could still be used in the right way. That's right. The saber was not wrong. Only the person was wrong. He understood that if he wanted to truly master the demon-devouring saber, he still had a long way to go. Demon-devouring saber, I'll take you to devour all the demons in the world. Previously, when the demon-devouring blade had struck down, its blade had indeed touched Nian Bing's arm. However, it had merely slid past the surface of his arm and landed on the ground as it spun. The red mark on Nian Bing's left arm was only a small wound. Not even his muscles had been injured.